Chapter 259. In this savage space, there was no life, no laws, and nothing. There was only a golden dragon phantom and Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's physical body cracked, but his wood origin was instantly repaired. His metal origin Dao body emitted golden light, illuminating the entire space. Second style, Tyrant Dragon Sky-Shattering Roar. Roar. The Tyrant Dragon attacked like a divine sword piercing through the void. It was unstoppable, and the earth crumbled continuously. Yi Qinghan's physical body exploded, and his blood rushed in reverse, trying to break through the shackles. Tseng, 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 Yi Qinghan stabbed his saber into the ground, but he couldn't stop himself from retreating. His physical body could explode at any moment, and the dragon roar could even extinguish his life force. If he didn't retreat, he would die. No matter how strong his will was, it couldn't be stronger than the arch. Separated by time and space, a virtual attack could defeat anyone. As long as the arch wasn't here personally, no one would dare to defy this aura. PFFF. Yi Qinghan coughed up blood, dyeing the ground red. His azure dragon arm continued to explode, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How can this be? This is clearly an image. It's just an image that has been around for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. How can it have such a terrifying attack? If the arch were here personally, wouldn't the heavens fall and the earth rend? Yi Qinghan finally understood why Wuxia was so heavily injured. The second style had already caused his origin Dao body to collapse, and his blood to rush in reverse. If the third attack descended, it would definitely crush him instantly. No. I can't retreat. Yi Qinghan wasn't willing to give up. The second style hadn't severely injured him, and he still had the strength to stand up. If he retreated now, his Dao heart wouldn't allow it. His determination to prove his Dao wouldn't allow it. Ah! Yi Qinghan roared furiously, and it went head-to-head with the dragon roar. The dragon blood boiled, and it ran through his body. It instantly fused with a portion of the dragon bones, and his physical body became 30% stronger. Yi Qinghan was surprised and delighted. He didn't expect the dragon roar to strengthen the dragon blood in his azure dragon arm by a few hundred times and increase the speed of refining the dragon bones. This was the best way to temper the body. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious, and blood was gushing out of his 7 orifices. Just like Wuxia, he was almost killed by the second strike. However, Yi Qinghan managed to survive by relying on his original Daoist body. In addition, there was still a lot of wood element that had not been refined. It was just enough to help repair his physical body and completely merge with his physical body. It was a blessing in disguise. Yi Qinghan had not only withstood the second strike, but he had also completely subdued the wood origins. Furthermore, he had successfully melted a portion of the dragon bone and condensed a pair of legs, azure dragon arms, and azure dragon legs. Once he had completely condensed his corporeal body, he would be the first person to enter the immortal realm with his corporeal body. He might even be the first person to do so. Roar! Yi Qinghan let out a muffled roar, allowing fresh blood to gush out from his eyes. Light flickered as he stared fixedly at the illusory figure of the celestial dragon above the void. The celestial dragon was incomparably tyrannical and did not tolerate any blasphemy. It was thoroughly enraged that its second strike did not kill its opponent. Its 10,000 feet golden body swooped down from the universe and roamed the 9 heavens. One could only see the dragon head and not the dragon tail. Hiss, hiss, Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He was shocked by the Thearcha's methods. Was this really just an illusory figure? Was this really just a manifestation of a secret technique? It was too real, too lifelike. It already had the strength to kill an immortal expert. Even an ordinary divine martial expert would not dare to face the Thearcha's will. Third strike, 9 revolutions heavenly dragon style. Roar, 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 the golden dragon roared, and the golden body spun, occupying the sky. A terrifying vortex appeared between heaven and earth, as if it was going to suck in everything in the universe. Yi Qinghan's expression changed drastically. He stabbed his heavy berserk saber into the ground and planted his feet firmly. He used all his foundation, hoping that his corporeal body would not leave the ground. However, the terrifying tearing force could even uproot the ground, let alone a human. Ka ka ka, the ground continued to crumble, and the rocks that were comparable to the immortal Sex Dao soldiers were reduced to dust. Yi Qinghan only felt that his blood was about to shatter his blood vessels and be swept away by the tearing force. He was instantly shocked. At this moment, he could not move any part of his body. His blood flowed in reverse and rushed to his brain, causing Yi Qinghan to lose the chance to resist. Large amounts of essence blood flowed out from his 7 orifices, nostrils, eyes, ears. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious, and his face was distorted. It was terrifying to the extreme. The aura of death was descending, enveloping Yi Qinghan. Am I going to die? Is this really just a secret technique? Yi Qinghan was unwilling. It was not easy for him to reach this stage in his life. If he were to die in the hands of the enemy on the battlefield, it would be a worthy and glorious death. However, if he were to die in the hands of a stone tablet, under the aura of an aura, it would be too unjust. Sword of the Human Sovereign. Divine Martial Imperial Codex. Help me. I want to prove my Tao. I don't want to die. Yi Qinghan roared angrily, raising his head and roaring. His physical body was crumbling, and even the azure dragon arm seemed extremely fragile. His flesh was constantly being separated and rushed into the whirlpool. In the end, only his skeleton was left, and even his golden battle bones were breaking. Hum. The sword of the human sovereign finally moved. With a slight tremble, it cut through the void. Yi Qinghan's golden body seemed to be in another time and space. He looked at the space within the boundary stone from a distance and saw the golden dragon circling around at high speed. The void was constantly being shattered, and even the spatial storms could not escape being torn apart by the heavenly dragon. Everything was reduced to dust and disappeared without a trace. The divine martial imperial codex was emitting divine light, and it kept swaying towards Yi Qinghan's golden body. The golden body was shining with golden light, and the origin of gold and the origin of wood exploded at the same time, constantly healing the wounded body. The flesh and blood returned to the golden body, and it became abnormally strong. Large amounts of dragon bones were forcefully shattered into dust and merged with the flesh and blood, condensing into one body. Arms, legs, torso, ribs, and finally the head. Yi Qinghan's soul was empty, and he allowed the golden body to reconstruct itself. His eyes were fixed on the other space, and the heavenly dragon was crazily circling around, breaking the earth and pulling it into the whirlpool. Everything would be crushed, and his face was pale. Fortunately, he had the human sovereign's sword and the divine martial imperial codex. Otherwise, even if there were 10 Yi Qinghan, he would still be pulled into the whirlpool by this tearing force, and then be crushed into pieces without leaving a corpse behind. This secret skill was not for cultivators in the realm of Tao Master, but for experts in the realm of Emperor-to-be. At the very least, they had to be fake emperors, or else they would not be able to withstand the second move, and would be knocked out of the space inside the stone tablet. Even Si Wuxia, who had the golden bloodline, could not do it. The difference in realm and strength was too great. It was unknown how long the golden dragon had been circling, and only the space and earth within a radius of 10,000 miles were intact. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Why did the 9 turns of the heavenly dragon style not stop? Was there a follow-up move? Roar! The next move of the sky dragon made Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. Even if the space connection was cut off by the human sovereign's sword, his chi and blood were boiling, and his battle bones were broken. The sky dragon's head plunged into the whirlpool from the void above, and directly rushed down. The golden dragon roared, and the power of the sky dragon and the power of the whirlpool collided. This space suddenly collapsed, and the earth collapsed for millions of miles. The chi rushed into the Milky Way, and flooded the entire space. The human sovereign's sword continuously slashed the void, and protected Yi Qing Han within it. However, this chi wave ignored the space, and directly broke through the shackles, and crashed into Yi Qing Han. Even the stone tablet was broken. Yi Qing Han's body was blasted into pieces, and crashed into a huge stone tablet behind him. His golden bones were broken, and his blood stained the god of death world. Boom! The stone tablet shook, and was almost smashed into pieces. Puff! Not a single part of Yi Qing Han's body was intact. His flesh was badly mangled, and all his ribs were broken. He spat out a mouthful of golden blood, and fainted on the spot. The horrifying scene of Yi Qing Han startled the people who were in seclusion. They were shocked and quickly rushed over, only to find that Yi Qing Han's flesh and blood were constantly wriggling. The origin of gold and origin of wood could not be repaired in an instant, and they needed time to recuperate. It was a disgusting sight. The golden light seemed to be a little dim. The attack of a great emperor was not something a peak Tao master could withstand. If it were not for the protection of the human sovereign's sword and the divine martial imperial codex, Yi Qing Han would definitely be dead. Such a terrifying secret skill was definitely not something that an ordinary person could cultivate. Although Yi Qing Han was unconscious, a little person appeared in his sea of consciousness, and unconsciously repeated the Nine Heavens Tyrant Dragon technique. Except for the lack of momentum, it was no different from the 3 attacks of the great emperor. What kind of secret skill is he cultivating? Wuxia was also severely injured, but his injuries were not too serious. As for Brother Ye's injuries, Heaven Palace God was shocked as he looked at the shattered stone tablet. It was like an ordinary stone that had turned to dust and scattered with the wind. It was as though the stone tablet did not exist. I don't know. The disappearance of the stone tablet means that he has comprehended this secret skill. But it will take a lot of time to cultivate it to the profound realm. Xia Qiue slowly squatted down, and a golden elixir appeared in her hand. It was definitely a treasure in the world. At this moment, she crushed it without hesitation and sent it all into Yi Qing Han's body. Xia Ziluo gasped and looked at Xia Qiue in shock. This elixir was one of the only 3 divine elixirs in the Tianlong sacred dynasty. She had one for herself, one for Xia Qiue, and one for the Tianlong sacred dynasty. This elixir was enough to revive the dead, and it was a life-saving treasure. She did not expect that this cold brother of hers would give his second life to Yi Qing Han without hesitation. Yi Qing Han had the wood element in his body, and his recovery ability was very strong. At this moment, he had become even stronger. His divinity was radiating, and his flesh and blood were reborn, creating more powerful and rich dragon blood, exuding a terrifying aura. He had finally broken through to the great martial venerable realm from the peak Tao master realm, but his combat strength was hundreds, or even thousands of times more terrifying than in his previous life. Si Wuxia woke up from his coma and saw Yi Qing Han lying on the ground in a miserable state. Even his celestial robe had been shattered into dust. He knew that Yi Qing Han had also entered the stone tablet and experienced the 3rd move. The fact that the stone tablet was shattered meant that Yi Qing Han had already comprehended this secret technique. Si Wuxia's mouth twitched slightly. His Taoist heart was not affected because in the eyes of the eccentric sect, Yi Qing Han was omnipotent. Even the 2 human sovereign physiques felt that they were not as good as this master in their hearts. How long have we been cultivating? Si Wuxia frowned and asked. Everyone shook their heads. They had been cultivating hard these days and did not know how long it had been. 27 days. Di Longtian raised his small head and stood up in front of a stone tablet. He replied seriously. How do you know? Haven't you been cultivating these days? Si Wuxia frowned. Obviously, he thought that he was the eldest senior brother of the crazy sect. He felt that Di Longtian was not doing his job properly and was actually wasting time in the killing god world. I have cultivated 3 divine arts and 5 secret skills. I feel that it is too boring, so I want to cultivate the stone tablet of the great path. But big brother and father said that I can't cultivate it. Di Longtian replied, feeling wronged. Si Wuxia and the others rolled their eyes and cursed in their hearts, damn, is this little guy here to discourage people? Cultivating secret skills and divine arts is like eating a meal. You even feel bored. Chapter 260. Yi Qinghan had been unconscious for a long time. His sea of consciousness was dark as if he had entered a chaotic world. There was no light, no time, and no laws. Everything was silent. Si Wuxia waited for Emperor Yi to come out of seclusion. She was still immersed in the boundary steel and didn't know what was happening outside. Boom! Her slender fingers turned into blades and slashed through the air. Heaven and earth were split into 2, and the steel shattered. Emperor Yi floated out. His temperament was captivating, and he was like a goddess overlooking all living things. Xia Qiue and the others' pupils shrank. They were shocked by Emperor Yi at this moment. Emperor Yi held the enlightenment lotus in his hand. His eyes were deep and dazzling like the stars and sun. No one dared to look directly at him. Even the emperor-level existences felt that it was blasphemy to look at him. They all turned to look at the unconscious Yi Qinghan. Fortunately, Xia Ziluo hadn't woken up. She was still trapped in the wordless steel. No matter what happened outside, it couldn't affect her. Otherwise, with her personality, she definitely wouldn't be able to resist competing with Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi took 3 steps in one step and arrived in front of Yi Qinghan. Looking at the bloodied and wounded Yi Qinghan, he knew that he had also entered the steel. His soul had been severely injured. Otherwise, he wouldn't be unconscious like this. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Emperor Yi stroked the 9 strings. The sounds of nature turned into heavenly spirit holy medicine, comforting Yi Qinghan's soul and sea of consciousness. The zither music intoxicated everyone. The rebellious Si Wuxia also stood quietly beside him. Di Longtian ran to Emperor Ye's side and stared straight into his eyes. At this moment, only he dared to get so close to Emperor Yi. He stared at Emperor Yi so seriously without any distracting thoughts in his eyes. Humph! With a deep and hoarse snort, Yi Qinghan's fingertips moved slightly. His body emitted a monstrous golden light that swept across the divine world. The human sovereign sword stood in the sea of consciousness, calmed down by the zither music. At this moment, even if the human sovereign came personally, he would be influenced by Emperor Yi. Human sovereign physique, zither immortal crimson demon physique. As expected of an existence comparable to a great emperor at the quasi-emperor realm. No one dared to stop him directly into the forbidden land. The 3 sovereigns of the early desolation era could sweep through countless experts, sacred beasts, divine beasts, and the supreme existences in the forbidden land. They had faced true divine dragons, phoenixes, cheilants, black tortoises, and white tigers. They had also fought their way into the depths of the forbidden land and retreated safely. This was enough to prove that their strength was heaven-defying. Si Wuxia dared to fight anyone as long as they were of the same realm. Even crossing realms wasn't a problem. However, when facing Emperor Yi, his heart was always filled with reverence. Perhaps part of it was because of Yi Qinghan, but most of it was because he knew that he wasn't Emperor Yi's opponent. He admired Emperor Yi very much. The origin of wood combined with the origin of alloy and dragon blood rapidly repaired Yi Qinghan's body. His true energy transformed into a Taoist robe that fluttered in the wind. Yi Qinghan's soul was also rapidly recovering. His jade-like face finally regained its calm and became incomparably vigorous. There was a bit of dragon's might that was denser than ordinary hybrid dragon bloodline experts. Goo goo goo, everyone could clearly hear Yi Qinghan's blood boiling in his body. It suppressed their aura. Although it was minimal, once Yi Qinghan's dragon blood evolved again, it would definitely greatly affect their combat strength in the future. Zhang Gu and company's mouths twitched. Yi Qinghan was chosen by the mortal emperor's sword. It wasn't just a matter of luck. His true combat strength was absolutely terrifying. His potential was limitless. It was very likely that he could create miracles and create unparalleled glory with his mortal body. Wang wang wang, the melody became more and more urgent and majestic. It pushed Yi Qinghan's blood and qi to the strongest state. His ability to produce blood exceeded the limit. Any injury could be quickly healed. An hour later, a smear of sweat appeared on Emperor Ye's forehead. His soul was extremely exhausted. This kind of guqin music wasn't something that could be played casually. It required a high concentration of the soul and a lot of effort. As everyone listened to the music, they all felt enlightened. They felt that their souls were unprecedentedly clear, and they had a deeper understanding of the secret Tao techniques from before. Although it was only an hour, it was better than half a year or even a year of bitter cultivation. Emperor Yi was the most precious treasure in the human world. Whoever could obtain her was destined to have a glorious life. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan enviously. Emperor Yi only recognized him in this life. This represented his fortune. Swish! Yi Qinghan's eyes widened. Light pierced through the clouds. His aura was majestic and was much more terrifying than the Saint Sun's. If he advanced to the immortal realm, it wouldn't be difficult to deal with the Emperor's son. My son, stop. Yi Qinghan's gaze swept past Emperor Yi. Looking at the exhausted her, a warm current flowed through his heart. He didn't know how to make her happier. The guqin music stopped abruptly. Emperor Yi smiled and asked gently, Master, does your soul still hurt? It's much better. Thank you for your hard work. Yi Qinghan smiled and slowly sat up. He rubbed Emperor Ye's head, wishing he could use all his gentleness on her. The parrot ran out of his body with an angry face. With a plop, it knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and roared, Master, please break the contract and let me fly freely. I'm destined to be alone in this life. This divine bird really doesn't dare to follow you anymore. You're not afraid of death, but I am. Pfft, Emperor Yi laughed. Everyone held their bellies and laughed. This parrot was too strange. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Such a shameless parrot was the only one in the world. It was impossible to find a second one. In the last 3 days, no one was in the mood to go into seclusion. Only Xia Ziluo was still cultivating under the wordless stone steel. She seemed to be comprehending a powerful secret technique. No one wanted to disturb her, so they all left. In the outside world, countless terrifying existences appeared in the imperial domain, all of them radiating terrifying killing intent. They were all people who had killed people like scything flax. Their Tao hearts were firm, and they had reached the peak step by step. Among the 10,000 races, the experts were peerless. The sage monarch clan had all been awakened, and some of the elites who had been sealed for thousands or even tens of thousands of years had been awakened. As soon as they appeared, they swept through 10,000 enemies and forced the various heavens to submit. King Heaven Equal of the Sage Monkey clan wielded a heaven-raising war staff. He crushed the heavens with his foot and suppressed an imperial child. His battle prowess was monstrous, and he wore a golden battle robe. He looked like the true emperor of the 10,000 races, looking down disdainfully on all living things. The appearance of King Heaven Equal of the Sage Monkey caused the Qilin tigers to pale in comparison. The White Tiger Imperial Clan, the Tiger Emperor, the Black Tortoise Sage Clan, Xian Jiutian, the Phoenix Clan, Feng Ling, and all the other top experts of the younger generation appeared. They were all strangers who had sealed themselves for countless years. They were incomparably powerful, and even the experts of the 10,000 races did not dare to blaspheme them. Everywhere they went, they only needed to submit. No one could stand. The experts of the 12 sage monarch clans had all appeared, and they were not inferior to the imperial children at all. They killed without hesitation, and with the ancient divine martial weapons in their hands, they could crush divine martial experts. The humans' expression changed drastically. They did not expect the 10,000 races to have such a terrifying foundation. Boom! The terrifying existences in the Tao realm's sacred grounds had all awakened, and they led the experts of the various races into the imperial domain. Zhang Gu, Xia Qiue, and the others received many messages, and the corners of their mouths rose slightly. The ancestors of the battle clan who sealed themselves in the Tao realm have awakened. They are at the 9th level of the immortal gate, and they can suppress everything. Zhang Gu clenched his iron fist and said excitedly. The previous imperial child of the heavenly dragon sacred dynasty has also awakened. It's my uncle. Xia Qiue's eyes were filled with battle intent. These ancestors who had sealed themselves in the 9th level of the immortal gate could kill experts at the beginning stage of the divine martial realm. They were the foundation of the human race. 7 experts with special bloodlines have also awakened in the alliance. Including the 2 from this generation, there are 9 in total. I, the ancient massacre god, am requesting for the supreme existence to awaken. In this generation, the human race may not lose to the 10,000 races. The heavenly palace god also received the message and said excitedly. Yi Qinghan's fingertips moved slightly. These people were all at the peak of the immortal gate, and he, as a great martial venerable, could not do anything at all. Once he encountered these people, he could only retreat. Only Emperor Yi could fight them. After all, the divine zither had always been in a state of awakening. With its support, those terrifying supreme emperors could only stand aside. Looks like I have to use my foundation. I will enter the immortal gate realm first, and then suppress my realm, just in case. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He had just broken through to the great martial venerable realm, and if he broke through to the immortal gate realm, his battle strength would naturally decrease. This was not what he wanted. This generation's golden era had come too quickly, and he was caught off guard. In 3 days, Yi Qinghan returned to the massacre god's world alone. Time passed quickly. Qitian Monkey King, Xian Zhoutian, and the other experts had all arrived. The human race and the 10,000 races fake emperors personally came out to welcome them, and gave them a certain amount of respect. They were too strong, too powerful, and this respect was deserved. Qitian Monkey King and the others only nodded slightly to the fake emperors. However, the fake emperors could only smile apologetically, and did not dare to say anything. The Qilin tiger's expression was ugly. These terrifying existences were actually receiving such high treatment, while he, a member of the royal family, could not receive the respect of the human race's fake emperors. He felt uncomfortable. The human race experts of the eternal battlefield also retreated. They were full of killing intent, and they were like killing gods. There were at least a few hundred of them, and all of them were strong candidates for the top 1,000. In this generation's conferred king battle, there were only 1,000 people. This battle was destined to pile up blood and bones like mountains, and there was no distinction between races. This was the best opportunity to break the hatred between races. The quasi-emperors all came out and looked at the experts of their respective races with smiles on their faces. Welcome to the revival of my friends. Welcome to the golden era that is rarely seen in 10,000 years. The safety of the endless universe depends on you. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor was incomparably majestic, and he looked coldly at the experts. Greetings, Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor. The experts of the royal family did not dare to blaspheme. The Azure Dragon tribe was the representative chosen by the Dragon Emperor. No one dared to disrespect the Azure Dragon tribe, and it was equivalent to disrespecting the Dragon Emperor. No race could withstand the wrath of the Dragon tribe. There's no need to be so polite. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor nodded slightly. Just as he was about to speak, the wind and clouds suddenly changed, and the great Tao rumbled. The 9 heavens' divine light poured down like a waterfall, drowning the ancient massacre god's territory. Boom boom boom, the great Tao wailed, and 10,000 laws wailed, as if they were mourning. The ancient massacre god's body emitted a death chi that rushed into the clouds. Everyone was shocked as they looked at the ancient massacre god. A terrifying aura rose, as if a great emperor had descended. The experts of 10,000 races were shocked, and the human race experts directly knelt down. Boom! The 2 quasi-emperors, Wuxia and Qin Heng, had ashen faces. They knelt down and cried loudly, "We respectfully send off Tao friend Di Shang to the Tao and ascend to the heavens." Di Shang had transformed into the Tao, and it was as if a great emperor had fallen. Strange phenomena appeared, and 10,000 creatures mourned. Chapter 261. The heavens and earth wailed, and the myriad of laws wailed. A sorrowful aura filled the air, affecting everyone's emotions. The expressions of the ancient massacre god and the others changed. Even the boundary emperor cried. Di Shang had fought for his entire life and made great contributions to the human race. But in the end, he couldn't escape the fate of death. His death was directly related to the battle with the Ghost Emperor. The Azure Dragon Boundary Emperor sighed. Di Shang's position in the human race was like his position in the myriad of races. If the human race didn't have Di Shang, the ancient massacre god would have declined long ago, and the human race would be even more miserable. Who would have thought that they would die so quickly? They didn't even have the time to witness the prologue of the Golden Era. They were only 2 days away. Di Longtian's face was pale. He couldn't sense Di Shang's aura at all. Father. The young Di Longtian was helpless. He looked at the ancient massacre god and then looked at Emperor Yi, hoping that this big sister would help him make a decision. Follow me. Screech. A divine eagle's cry shook the mountains and rivers. Emperor Yi spread his wings and carried Di Longtian over the heads of the crowd, rushing towards the ancient massacre god. The 7th grade god-slaying eagle and Emperor Yi instantly attracted the attention of the myriad of races, including the heroes of the human race. They were just born and didn't know who Emperor Yi was. They couldn't help but be curious. The insane sect's disciples looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Wuxia forcefully led the group forward. They found an empty space and waited for the boundary emperor's orders. Wuxia and Qin Heng sat on the ground dispiritedly. They didn't have the prestige of a boundary emperor anymore. After suffering so many setbacks, they already had thoughts of retiring. Millions of experts gathered outside Emperor Abyss City. The elites of the myriad of races and the human race didn't gloat. They all looked respectfully at the sky above the ancient massacre god. Divine radiance filled the sky, and divine light shot out in all directions. The source of all laws and the myriad of Taos in the world had all descended. A divine screen hung in the sky as if it was guiding the soul of an emperor expert. It was no different from a great emperor transforming into the Tao. Di Shang's death was a great loss to the human race. The hero of the human race, Taoist Di Shang, will transform into the Tao today. The golden era of the endless universe will begin today. Let the countless beings in the endless universe never forget him. Heroes, regardless of race, are immortal. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor's voice was low as he stared at the myriad of spirits, his emperor's aura oppressing everyone. Let us salute the hero. Whoosh! Millions of powerful beings pounded their chests with their right hands and bowed toward the ancient killing god. Qin Heng's Wuxian's eyes flashed as they slowly stood up. They looked at the tens of thousands of disciples behind them and shouted, "We respectfully send fellow Taoist Di Shang off. As the ancient killing god, I have no regrets even if I die. As the ancient massacre god, I have no regrets even if I die." Boom! Tens of thousands of people stomped their feet, shattering the earth. Killing intent rushed into the heavens, and their killing robes fluttered in the wind. Their auras were oppressive, and their battle intent soared into the heavens. Whoosh! When the sovereign realm learned that Emperor Shang had died, they didn't need anyone to say anything. They all knelt in front of the ancient god of slaughter's territory and wept in grief. The azure dragon stared as the divine light gradually dissipated. He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "The golden era of the endless universe has begun. The king-conferring battle will begin today. From today onwards, the endless universe will change eras. It will be called the era of Emperor's fall. Remember, today is the day that Emperor Shang fell, the day that the golden era begins. Only then will the era change. The wild era, ancient era, ancient era, ancient era, divine martial era, and now it was once again the era of Emperor's fall. Every time an era changed, the endless universe would experience terrifying events. This time, the era that changed was purely because of Emperor Shang's fall and the opening of the golden era. Everyone fell silent. No one objected. The reason that Emperor Shang had died was because of the Ghost Emperor. He had used the human sovereign sword to injure the Ghost Emperor's soul, allowing him to return to the Dead Star. He was the one who had saved humanity and countless lives. All participants must register with the ancient massacre god. No one is allowed to rely on their combat strength to ignore the rules. Boom! Ka, with the sound of thunder, lightning flashed across the void. The sky suddenly brightened. At the beginning of September, it was a scorching hot time. But, heavy snow fell from the skies, instantly submerging the sovereign realm. A great emperor has fallen, snow drifts for 10,000 miles, the quasi-emperor's expressions changed. Emperor Shang was not a great emperor and was far from that. How could snow drift for 10,000 miles and submerge the sovereign realm? This is, the scarlet snow physique. Qinshue has come out of seclusion. Suoxian was overjoyed as he stared at the ancient massacre god. Jian Qinshue's clothes were as white as snow. She stepped on a snow dragon and entered everyone's sight. Her peerlessly beautiful face was captivating. She was like a goddess who had descended, pure and holy without a trace of impurity. Sister Shui. Yi Mengshi was overjoyed. The insane sect had another super expert. It was safer now. Jian Qinshue was incomparably majestic. Her aura suppressed everyone, making them unable to raise their heads. Only some princes and super experts stared at her, their eyes flickering. Mengshi, where is brother Qinghan? Jian Qinshue smiled and waved her hand. The snow dragon dispersed and landed in front of the insane sect. Her heavenly voice made people's hearts itch. Brother is in the ancient massacre god world. You've finally come out of seclusion. There is no one in charge of the insane sect now. Yi Mengshi's expression dimmed as she whispered. What's wrong? Jian Qinshue noticed that everyone was staring at her. The entire sovereign realm was filled with sorrow. She could not help but ask. Senior Di Shang has transformed into the Tao. Sister Huang has also gone over. Jian Qinshue raised her eyebrows and looked at Suoxian. She realized that he had the same expression. Di Shang had transformed into the Tao. It seemed like the human race would have a hard time in the future. Qinshue, it's good that you've come out of seclusion. When the king-conferring battle begins, you will represent the ancient massacre god. Suoxian said in a deep voice. Master, I will not disgrace the human race. However, I want to represent the insane sect. Jian Qinshue bowed slightly and said firmly. The corner of Suoxian's eyes twitched. It was not easy to cultivate a super genius disciple. However, she was taken away by Yi Qinghan. The Scarlet Snow body was also a great emperor physique. Si Wuxia and Emperor Yi both had Renhuang physiques. Yi Qinghan had been chosen by the Renhuang sword. Was the insane sect trying to defy the heavens? Qin Hengyan's Wuxian's expressions changed slightly. It did not matter who Jian Qinshue represented. After all, Yi Qinghan belonged to the ancient massacre god. Although Yi Qinghan represented the insane sect, the human tribe still remembered the ancient massacre god. "Alright, you want one of the top 10. Wuxian shouted in a dignified manner. The top 10 was a terrifying ranking. Even an imperial prince would not dare to say that he could obtain such a ranking. Yet, Wuxian wanted it just like that. The experts of the 10,000 races could not help but smile as they looked at Jian Qinshue with disdain. Jian Qinshue was now at the beginner stage of the immortal sect. No matter how strong his physique was, it would be very impressive if he could get into the top 100. Within the God of Slaughter's world, Yi Qinghan used a supreme treasure to break through to the immortal gate realm, and his cultivation rose rapidly. Early stage of Great Marshal revered, middle stage of Great Marshal revered, peak of Great Marshal revered, the supreme treasure, the rank 8 divine pill, was brimming with power. It crushed Yi Qinghan's shackles as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In just 2 short days, he entered the peak state. Large amounts of dragon bones were condensed into his physical body. His physical body first stepped into the immortal realm. His cultivation base soon followed, and his divine sense could sense countless layers of space. Yi Futian's soul also surged rapidly, becoming abnormally powerful. The space around him appeared in his sea of consciousness. Then, he probed out of the death divine world and looked at the imperial district. He sensed that Renhuang Yi was leading Di Longtian outside the death divine world. He flicked his finger, and the Renhuang sword shot out. The barrier outside the death divine world dispersed. "Father!" Di Longtian rushed into the main hall, tears streaming down his face. Yi Qinghan's expression flickered, and he stood up. His robes fluttered in the wind as he blocked Di Longtian's path. Sighing sadly, he hugged the little fellow. "Little Tian, your father has gone far away. You have to remember his glory. A real man should stand tall. Don't disappoint him, okay?" Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "I can't sense my father's existence." Di Longtian stared at the golden pagoda, wanting to step on it. Yi Qinghan's nose twitched. He took out an emperor's robe from his Qian Kun ring and said softly, "Master left this emperor's robe for you. It's to protect your life. Don't use it unless it's a critical moment. Otherwise, if people find out that you're master's son, you'll be hunted down by countless people. Do you understand?" The emperor's robe automatically flew into Di Longtian's body and shrunk continuously, protecting him. "Let him rest quietly. He's too tired." Yi Qinghan hugged Di Longtian and glanced at Xia Zi Luo who was still in seclusion. Then, he pulled Emperor Yi out of the death god's world and took the emperor's sword. They went to the main hall of the ancient death god. Yi Qinghan retracted his aura and returned to the great martial honored realm. No one knew that he had broken through to the celestial realm. This was his foundation, just in case. The crazy sect did not have any peerless cultivators, so Yi Qinghan had to be careful. These terrifying monstrous physiques needed his protection. Yi Qinghan brought the 2 of them to the spiritual medicine hall of the ancient death god. He took out the emperor's sword and took away a large amount of spiritual medicines and treasures. The fake emperor felt his heart ache, but he couldn't stop him. Yi Qinghan stared at Di Longtian and said in a low voice, "Take some each. The king-conferring battle has already started. Little Tian, you're not allowed to participate. When the king-conferring battle is over, I'll take you to the ancient battlefield. You'll have a chance to soar into the sky sooner or later, but don't rush." Do you understand? Now, the crazy sect couldn't protect the divine dragon body at all. Once it appeared, people from the Forbidden Land would definitely come out and kill Di Longtian, not to mention Di Shang's enemies. I understand, big brother. I won't let daddy down. Di Longtian's young voice was filled with tears, making people feel pity for him. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched slightly. This child was really pitiful. Although he was only 6 years old, he already had the strength of an early-stage Tao master. More importantly, no one knew how many divine senses and secret skills he had mastered. In the outside world, countless experts were lining up to sign up for the king-conferring battle. Si Wuxia was so strong that he occupied the front row. Even if there were experts at the level of sovereigns from thousands of clans who wanted to fight for a spot, they were all pushed back by him. Yi Qinghan took Emperor Yi and flew high. The wind whistled and snow flew for thousands of miles, drowning the crowd. Boom! Yi Qinghan came to the front of the crazy sect and found that Zhang Guo and the others had already returned to their clans. The crazy sect was still the same, but with the addition of Sikong Qingjun and the others, their momentum was not weak. Looking at Jian Qinxue, he found that her temperament had changed greatly. They looked at each other and smiled. 1,000 words were contained in that smile. Chapter 262. The king-bestowing battle was also an elimination round. A large number of people would be eliminated, leaving behind the true experts. Then, they would fight one-on-one. No one knew how many people would die. Everyone held a life tablet in their hands, waiting for the quasi-emperor's instructions. Our endless universe has a very unique space. It was personally created by the 2 emperors of the human race and the 10,000 races during the primordial age. Only souls are allowed to enter. You can develop a physical body to fight and train. This space can reduce the deaths of young disciples. However, there is also a flaw. Those with strong souls will have an advantage, while those with strong physical bodies will be suppressed inside. Therefore, it is unfair. However, there is no absolute fairness in the endless universe. If you want to become an emperor and prove your Tao, if your physical body is strong but your soul is not, proving your Tao is a pipe dream. It is only natural that you will be eliminated. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor shouted, his voice echoing for thousands of miles. This space is called the Endless Space. It has been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years. The Age of Emperors has begun once again. All of you will enter together and use your souls to fight. There is no distinction between races or realms. If your life tablet is taken, your soul will fall out of the space. That means you are eliminated. It is not that no one will die in this space, but the death rate will be greatly reduced. However, it is best that you do not enter the Grand Martial Honorables. The Golden Era is the era of the immortal sex emperors. Their souls can instantly destroy yours. If your soul dies, your physical body will also die. Therefore, I hope that you will carefully consider whether to participate in this generation's king-bestowing battle. The Golden Era was the glory of the emperors. However, it was also the sorrow of some experts. If one's realm was slightly lower, they would only become a stepping stone for others. The Qilin tiger glanced coldly at Yi Qinghan and revealed a sinister smile. He taunted disdainfully, "Little thing, you better not enter the endless space. Otherwise, I will hunt you down for millions of miles and make you the laughingstock of the endless universe." The endless space was only about the strength of one's soul. Weapons could not enter at all, not even the human sovereign sword. Only souls could enter. Yi Qinghan's foundation was not there, so the Qilin tiger did not care about him. "Don't worry, I will not disappoint you. See you in the endless space." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he replied coldly. The two of them were secretly communicating with each other, their killing intent radiating in all directions. However, the others were oblivious. "Listen up, There are no treasures in the boundless space, so there's no need to search for treasures. All you need to do is eliminate all your opponents and take the life tokens. One life token is worth 1 point, and the more points you have, the greater your chances of advancing to the next level. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor continued. Everyone's expression changed slightly. They could no longer trust their teammates. Anyone could be betrayed. Even if they were from the same clan, in order to ascend to the next level, they would even lay their hands on their family. Who would dare to form a team without a life-and-death relationship? The endless space is everywhere. It's so big that it's boundless. It's like a real universe. You'll be teleported there. There's no fixed location. Even if you want to form a team, it's impossible. The Golden Era is the era of individual soldiers. All of you participants, stay where you are. Those who are not participating, leave this place. We Quasi-Emperors will send your souls into the seamless space while your physical bodies will remain here. We will do our best to protect you. No physical body can be destroyed. You can fight in peace. Yi Qinghan frowned. Many people from the insane sect could not participate. They had to be sent to the killing god's world. Yi Qinghan took out the emperor's sword and handed it to Di Longtian. He said in a deep voice, "Bring your brothers and sisters into the killing god's world to cultivate. Do not touch the great stone tablet. Do you hear me?" The Nine Heavens Tyrant Dragon art was only a stone tablet that was second only to the origin of laws and the great Tao. Even so, it had almost killed Yi Qinghan. If it was the great stone tablet, it could definitely kill the juniors of the insane sect. Screech. The god-slaying eagle left its body as well. Yi Qinghan handed the juniors of the insane sect to them and said, "You go to the god-slaying world as well. Protect these juniors well. Don't try to comprehend the techniques and divine abilities on the stone steels in the god-slaying world. They're too dangerous. You can cultivate the other steels to your heart's content." The god-slaying eagle was grateful and nodded desperately. Yi Qinghan was indeed very kind to them. Go and protect them well. Don't leave the killing god's world and don't enter the Golden Pagoda. This is an order. Yi Qinghan handed Tai Hua and the other juniors to the god-slaying eagle and flew into the sky, disappearing outside the Imperial Abyss City in the blink of an eye. At this moment, only a few people were qualified to participate. Jian Qinshue, Emperor Yi, and Si Wuxia could definitely participate. Yi Mingxi's soul was unusually strong. Even if she couldn't kill many enemies, she could protect herself. Huang Xiaohu and Lin Wuqian were both strong-willed people. Shi Gu, Feng Wuxia, Nangong Xiaobei, and Li Jiufeng were qualified to participate. Nangong Qingyue was also sent into the killing god's world. Mu Yu, Tianchen, Huang Tian, Sikong Qingjun, and the others made a total of 18 people. They were all from the insane sect. "My son, you must be careful when I'm not around." Yi Qinghan was worried about Emperor Yi and said in a low voice. "Don't worry, master. It's not a problem for me to kill a low-level immortal sect emperor's disciple. I can protect myself against mid-level emperor's disciple," Emperor Yi said proudly. She could definitely fight across realms with her soul alone. Buzz. A sword rainbow pierced through the clouds, and the spirit qi within 1,000 miles was instantly sucked dry. Xia Ziluo descended like an emperor patrolling the area, stunning everyone. "If I don't show up, what kind of golden era is this?" Xia Ziluo said indifferently. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at Xia Ziluo, who looked like she was in her teens, they were stunned by her arrogance. If she didn't show up, it wouldn't be a golden era. She was really looking down on everyone. "Humph, reckless little girl. Wait until you enter the endless space before being arrogant," the Qilin tiger snorted disdainfully. "I'll beat you into submission and take you as my mount," Xia Ziluo floated down and said domineeringly. The Qilin tiger was furious. It had the bloodline of the white tiger and the Qilin, which was definitely the bloodline of an emperor. Yet it was actually mocked by a little girl from the human race. It couldn't help but feel murderous. However, before it could say anything, Emperor Yi stepped out and declared war in an even more domineering manner. This little tiger is my mount. Xia Ziluo, if you don't believe me, let's make a bet. If I win, in the future, when you see me and my master, you'll take a detour and get lost. This almost made Xia Ziluo jump up in anger. Her jade-like finger trembled as she pointed at Emperor Yi, her whole body trembling. You little brat. Are you trying to fight me? Xia Ziluo rebuked angrily. Yes. I'm trying to fight you. Do you dare to bet? Let's bet on who can make this little tiger their mount. Emperor Yi said coldly. Fine, fine, fine. I don't believe I can't win. If I win, what will you do? Xia Ziluo asked. If you win, you have the final say. Emperor Yi was incomparably arrogant and didn't care about Xia Ziluo at all. The Qilin tiger was furious. These two little girls were using it as a wager. They didn't put it in their eyes at all. Roar! The Qilin tiger raised its head and roared, its aura rising. The aura of the seventh tier of the Immortal Gate forced back countless experts around it. Its crown shone with golden light, and its emperor's robe danced in the wind. You too, I'm going to tear you to pieces. Enter the boundless space and act arrogantly in front of me. Emperor Yi said domineeringly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. These two little girls were competing again. They were using each other's royal bloodline as a wager to suppress each other and make them their mounts. Could it be that they wanted to become empresses? Only great emperors could have such mounts when they were young. Qitian Monkey King, Xian Zhoutian, Feng Ling, and the other experts of the sacred clan squinted their eyes and looked at Xia Ziluo and Emperor Yi. A strange expression appeared on their faces. However, these existences who had sealed themselves for 10,000 years didn't take the elites of this era seriously. Even if the Qilin tiger wanted to carry their shoes, they had to consider whether they wanted it or not. Can you count me in for your wager? I know what your real wager is. I want it too. Jian Qinxue smiled and said. Pfft. Yi Qinghan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Jian Qinxue didn't care about the severity of the matter and wanted to interfere. Emperor Ye's aura turned cold. When it came to Yi Qinghan, everyone had to step aside. Her possessiveness was extremely strong. Yi Qinghan's love could only be given to himself, not to Jian Qinxue. Because if someone shared a little with him, they would share more with him. Pfft. The Qilin tiger was furious. It was so angry that it spat out blood. Golden blood spurted out and corroded the rocks. It glared at the three beautiful women in front of it and wanted to kill them all with one palm. Jian Qinxue sensed a trace of hostility from Emperor Yi. He smiled faintly and said indifferently, "My son, I don't want much. If I win, I can share it with you. If you win, I will immediately leave in defeat. I will never appear in front of you." Everyone was confused. They didn't know what treasure these three beauties were fighting for. However, Xia Qiue and the others knew that Emperor Yi and Xia Ziluo had been fighting for a long time. The treasure was obviously Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. When did he become a wager? However, the Qilin tiger was the most annoyed. It was the wager on the surface and it was a wager on whose mount it would become. It was a great humiliation. I will control your souls and make you suffer the humiliation of being under my crotch. I will repay you for the humiliation you gave me today. The Qilin tiger was extremely violent. There weren't many people around. Even the emperor-level existences didn't want to provoke it anymore. It was crazy. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at the Qilin tiger coldly. There was killing intent in his eyes. In terms of possessiveness, no one was stronger than him. Emperor Yi was the most important relative in his life. No one could humiliate him. Jian Qinxue had been with him since he was in the Sky Sword sect of Owl Falling Star. At that time, he was weak, but she didn't leave him and took care of Madame Wang and Yi Mingxi. This kind of affection couldn't be expressed with words. Whoever humiliated the two of them was courting death. I don't need you to be my mount. You definitely won't be able to leave the endless space unless you throw away your life card and run away with your tail between your legs. Yi Qinghan said coldly with killing intent. Yi Qinghan also declared war, which shocked countless experts. Yi Qinghan and the others were just nobodies. They had never heard of them. Now, they all declared war on the Qilin tiger. It was as if they were treating the Qilin tiger as a soft persimmon to be squashed. Chapter 263. People from the crazy sect continuously challenged the Qilin tiger, which infuriated the Qilin tiger. Who would dare to disrespect the supreme bloodline of the royal family? Today, he was humiliated continuously. Kakik, the Qilin tiger was furious. The royal bloodline was awakened. He clenched his fists and his voice was as cold as ice. People from the crazy sect, good, good. I will remember you. I hope you will not be defeated too early, the Qilin tiger said coldly. Many quasi-emperors looked curiously at the people from the crazy sect. Except for Emperor Yi, who was somewhat famous, the others were not. They did not understand why they challenged the Qilin tiger so aggressively. Since everyone is impatient, let's relax. We will work together to open the endless space and send you in. Life and death will be determined by fate, the blue dragon quasi-emperor said in a deep voice. The Qilin tiger's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and glanced at the people from the crazy sect. He remembered all of them in his mind. A strong murderous intent flashed in the corner of his eyes. Sikong Qingjun and the other experts sneered. Obviously, they also wanted to kill. These people were extremely terrifying. Those who had survived independently in the eternal battlefield had strong survival skills. If they worked together, even those who had sealed themselves for thousands of years might not be able to survive, let alone the emperor's son. Boom! Dozens of quasi-emperors tore the space apart at the same time and found the endless space. They opened it. The endless space was restored. Countless mountains and rivers covered it. It was vivid and lifelike, with flowing water and green mountains and white clouds. It was like a real world, boundless and magnificent. Everyone gasped. How strong were the human emperors? This was already a heaven-defying act. The laws, the origin, and the great Tao were all here. This meant that the two human emperors had comprehended all the laws and the origin of the great Tao. This was beyond the scope of a great emperor. How terrifying would one's talent and will be needed to comprehend all the origin laws of the great Tao in one's lifetime. Those who did not have a strong Tao heart would have their Tao heart shattered when they saw this space. They would have no hope of proving their Tao. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. The space in front of them was not a man-made space. It was clearly a real universe. Blue birds flew, eagles soared, and fierce beasts roared. The great Tao space was unusually stable. Even martial gods could not destroy it. Even if a corner of it was broken, it would be repaired by the Emperor Ray. It's too perfect. Emperor Yi exclaimed softly as he held on to the divine lotus of enlightenment. Jian Qinxue smiled and waited for the quasi-emperor's next instructions. Everyone, relax and place your life tablets in your sea of consciousness. Once we sense your life tablets, we can capture all of your souls into the space. If you want to stop fighting, immediately give up your life tablets. Within 3 breaths, you will be automatically ejected out of the endless space. Quasi-Emperor Tsang Long warned. Hundreds of thousands of quasi-emperors worked together to control the surroundings. Their spiritual senses entered the sea of consciousness of the countless elites, preparing to send them all into the boundless space. Whoosh! Countless souls were randomly teleported and appeared in the boundless space. The boundless space was vast and boundless, like a true boundless universe. However, there was only one plane here, and there were no stars. As soon as the powerhouses of the 10,000 races entered the space, they were all in their peak states, manifesting their true forms. Human race, rat race, giant ant race, tree race, giant race, sage monkey race, fox race, golden eagle race, there were many races here. Some races had never appeared before, the hybrids of powerful lifeforms. They were incredibly strong, able to tear through the void. The expert of the Azure Dragon race, Tsang Yao, transformed into a human. He held a supreme dragon bone in his hand and swept through everything. When he attacked, he tore apart the physical bodies manifested from the souls of the powerhouses, instantly killing their souls. No one could escape his attack. The Heavenly Monkey King held a war rod in his hand and looked around. He discovered a huge stone stele and walked over to take a look. There were the words, 99 battle zones, carved on it. What does this mean? The Heavenly Monkey King frowned and looked behind the stone stele. He discovered another stone stele with the words, 98 battle zones. Is there a difference? The Heavenly Monkey King felt very curious. He held the war rod and walked over to the 98 battle zones. Just as he arrived before the stone stele suddenly shone with a divine light, enveloping the world and blocking the Heavenly Monkey King outside. There are still people in the 99 battle zones. You are not allowed to fight in other battle zones. 10 odd large words flashed on the stone stele. The divine light fluctuated, seizing one's soul. The Heavenly Monkey King came under the stone stele and discovered some small words carved on it. After reading it carefully, he couldn't help but smile coldly. When fighting across zones, one's soul would carry the divine gravity chain and their combat power would be weakened by 1%. Every battle zone would give birth to a supreme expert. Only by killing the supreme expert in the battle zone would one be able to enter the next battle zone. After crossing over, a second divine gravity chain would appear and their combat power would be weakened by another 1%. After crossing over 100 battle zones, one's physical body would enter the endless space. Only by relying on one's physical body could one defeat all living beings and prove one's Tao. So that's how it is. The Heavenly Monkey King held the war rod tightly and killed his way back to the 99 battle zones. Everywhere he passed, those who didn't hand over their life tokens would be killed. The other party didn't even have a chance to resist. There were a total of 100 battle zones. Each battle zone was vast and boundless. They cycled around each other, forming a huge prototype battle zone. Every battle zone had a terrifying prince. Under normal circumstances, the prince would defeat all enemies and cross over to battle. However, it was inevitable that a dark horse would appear and kill the prince. Cross over to battle and become the elite of the elites. These things were not told to everyone by the Boundary Emperor. Only those who were fated to discover them would be able to do so. Yi Qing Han was transported to a mountainous area. The surrounding scenery was similar. When he looked up, he saw a blazing sun hanging in the sky. It didn't move at all as if it was forbidden. It was impossible to tell the direction. Screech! The goshawk missed and grabbed a green bird. It tore it apart and swallowed it. Blood splattered on the ground. Yi Qing Han reached out and grabbed it. He realized that the blood wasn't real. He flicked his finger and killed the goshawk with a strand of qi. The corpse fell to the ground. When he grabbed it again, he realized that it was also fake. The world here is not real, including the mountains and the water. The human emperor has good methods. This space has been passed down for countless eras and hasn't been destroyed yet. It really makes us feel ashamed. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stepped into the distance. Boom! A powerful human expert appeared, his soul filled with killing intent. He coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and smirked as he coldly said, "Give me your life medallion." Roar! Yi Qinghan's reply was the Berserker Hammer. Holding the Berserker Hammer, he stepped forwards and a terrifying will shot out from his eyes as he said calmly, "That's what I wanted to say as well. Give me your life medallion, or I won't hold back. If I kill you, it will be a great loss to the human race. Brat, I'm not a Qilin. Don't be arrogant in front of me." His eyes flashed with killing intent. Humph, then let's see who's stronger. Berserk Godslayer style. Boom! With a slash of the blade, countless rays of blade light rushed into the clouds and disappeared. The expert was shocked. He cursed inwardly and fled into the distance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan used the stellar transposition technique and appeared in front of him. He slashed out with his saber and sliced through the clouds, directly injuring his opponent's soul. Yi Qinghan made a grabbing motion and pulled the opponent into his palm. He coldly said, "I don't want to kill humans. Don't force me. Give me your life medallion." The expert was at the Immortal Gate realm. Unfortunately, he did not understand the law of space. He could not dodge Yi Qinghan's attack and his life token was stuck in his throat. The difference between them was too great. He had no choice but to summon his life token and give it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan grabbed the life token and took a few steps back. As he watched his opponent disappear, he flipped his palm and the life token disappeared. He turned around and charged into the distance. The giant tribe was a branch of the human race. They were born with the Fate Palace realm and were abnormally strong. However, there were too few of them and they could only rely on the human race to survive. The giant tribe's supreme king, Jiangheng, was comparable to a crown prince in battle. He was the strongest in Yi Qinghan's battle zone and was one of the experts favored by the Boundary Emperor. It was hoped that he would be able to kill everyone in an instant. At this moment, he was on the opposite side of Yi Qinghan. He could kill Immortal Gate experts with a single attack. Boom! 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 Jiangheng, who was almost 3 meters tall, killed more than 10 experts of the 10,000 races in a row and forced dozens of human experts to hand over their life tokens. In the north and south, there were also 2 experts from the Sage Monarch tribe. They killed anyone they saw and attacked their souls with great force. They did not give the humans a chance to escape. Some people even voluntarily handed over their life tokens, but they were still killed in an instant. It was incomparably cruel. 4 people, 4 directions, but all of them were closing in on the center. There were at least 100,000 people in each battle region, and after 2 hours, at least 5,000 people had been eliminated. The experts could sense that Yi Qinghan's 4 experts were no match for them, and they started to form teams. They wanted to kill these 4 experts first before fighting amongst themselves. They didn't care about their races, and they temporarily forgot about their grudges as they all pounced towards the 4 experts. Each of them was a dragon among men. Once they joined forces, they were incomparably strong and unstoppable. Those who did not join the teams fled, unwilling to fight against them. There were at least dozens of people in each team. A single attack from each person could kill a crown prince. They could fight against a crown prince. Yi Qinghan killed hundreds of experts in a row and was temporarily ranked 3rd in this battle zone. He became famous in one battle. With his great martial venerable realm cultivation, he could kill the souls of Immortal Gate experts. It was undeniably terrifying. Outside Emperor Abyss City, the quasi-emperors searched for suitable experts of the younger generation and prepared to nurture them. Everyone hoped to nurture a true emperor to be recorded in history. The battle prowess of Yi Qinghan in the 45th district is indeed not bad. He killed hundreds of kings of a race as a great martial venerable. Unfortunately, his cultivation is too low and cannot fight against Jiang Heng and the other two. Otherwise, he could really fight against those of a higher realm. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor was slightly stunned as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He realized that there was a faint dragon's might in his soul and could not help but pay more attention to him. Yes, otherwise, the human race would definitely have another super genius. Even if he could not prove his Tao, he could still become a quasi-emperor. Xia Qintian sighed. Time waits for no man. This kind of situation has happened to countless people. Such a genius is destined to become a stepping stone for true experts. The giant quasi-emperor was proud, confident that Jiang Heng could sweep through the entire region and fight across realms. Quickly, look at Emperor Yi. This little girl is the best candidate to become a martial emperor. Unfortunately, she relies too much on Yi Qinghan and is not willing to take us quasi-emperors as her master. What a pity! Zhang Yunxiao said excitedly as he looked at the 60th district. When he saw Emperor Yi sweep through everything and kill an early-stage Immortal Gate expert with just a strand of zither music, he could not help but say excitedly. Chapter 264. Within District 60, Emperor Yi had transformed into a zither and was sweeping through the battlefield. With a wave of his jade-like hands, he sliced through the void and destroyed the souls of his opponents. Emperor Yi's battle record stunned many quasi-emperors and false emperors. Within the battle zone, regardless of whether he encountered a prince or a king who was invincible among his peers, he killed them all with a single strike. In the end, everyone joined forces to attack him. However, numbers were nothing to Emperor Yi. Only a true king with the battle prowess of a single soldier could stop him. Renhuang Yi, you've gone too far. Dozens of experts blocked Renhuang Yi's path and rebuked him angrily. How am I going too far? This is a golden age. Do you really expect me to be merciful? The weak are destined to be the stepping stones of the strong. Even if I don't take your life medallions, someone else will. Emperor Yi's aura was captivating. He stood there like a zither, ready to unleash a terrifying attack at any moment. Everyone was stunned and speechless. What Renhuang Yi said was extremely true. The weak were destined to be stepping stones. Renhuang Yi had a sense of propriety in his attacks. Unless the other party had the intention to kill, he would not kill them at all. He would only injure them and seize their life tablets. For other cultivators, he would kill them without holding back at all. With the 30 of us working together, even an imperial prince would have to stand aside, let alone a little girl who's still wet behind the ears. Everyone, attack together. Let's beat back one of our competitors first. One of the sage monarchs stepped forward, a heaven-sundering divine sword appearing in his hand. He took the lead and attacked Emperor Yi. Boom! With one person attacking, the others all attacked, surrounding Emperor Yi tightly. Divine light filled the sky and surged into the starry river. Not far from the center of the battlefield, a young shape-shifting warrior smirked as he looked down at the battlefield. His gaze locked onto Renhuang Yi as he muttered to himself, I'll let both of you suffer first. Renhuang Yi, I'll kill you so that you won't be able to escape from the endless space. It can be considered as revenge for second brother. This shape-shifting expert was an expert from the Qilin tiger race and his name was Qilin Shi. He was extremely intelligent and had unparalleled battle prowess. The key was that he wasn't considered strong and liked to launch sneak attacks. Although he was only at the 7th level of the Immortal Gate, he had killed experts of the 9th level of the Immortal Gate before. Emperor Yi shifted his position and appeared outside the encirclement of the crowd. His body turned into a giant guqin, and divine light shone as he ruthlessly pulled the 9 strings. One arrow after another, and the 9 arrows combined into one. His aura soared through the galaxy, and the earth cracked. Emperor Yi attacked with all his might, and his momentum was unstoppable. Buzz buzz buzz, boom boom boom, the divine arrow pierced through the air and shot toward the crowd. Not good. Behind you. Everyone roared and joined forces to attack the divine arrow. Waves of energy overflowed into the heavens and the earth shook. Even the space became somewhat unstable. Ding! The power of 30 kings was terrifying. They turned into a golden dragon and collided with the divine arrow. Boom! The two attacks fiercely collided. The divine arrow was unstoppable. It shattered the golden dragon and swooped down toward the crowd. Everyone's pupils constricted as they sucked in a breath of cold air. They directly threw out the weapons in their hands, hoping to block the aftershock of the divine arrow. However, the divine arrow was an attack from the moon chasing 9 arrows explosion technique. Its speed was extremely fast, and its power was 1,000,000 times stronger. Just the aftershock alone was enough to shatter the weapons. The energy wave heavily injured the souls of all the experts, and their life tokens fell to the ground. The 30 invincible kings had already killed a few people, so they had more than 10 life tokens in their hands. Just like that, Emperor Yi obtained close to 500 life tokens in one move, becoming the number 1 existence in the 60th district. Qilin Shi's mouth twitched. He was also shocked by Emperor Ye's battle prowess. This had already surpassed the battle prowess of an imperial prince, right? He wanted to retreat in his heart. Emperor Ye's divine sense swept across thousands of miles. With a flash of light, he collected all the life tokens and instantly appeared in front of Qilin Shi. His eyes were dazzling as he said in a low voice, "Give me your life tokens." "Humph, you ignorant little girl. Go away. I don't want to fight with you for now," Qilin Shi said coldly. "Experts of the Qilin tiger race, I don't have much patience for you. Give me your life tokens." Emperor Yi frowned and said majestically, "Die." Qilin Shi suddenly attacked. A giant chain wrapped around the sky and wrapped around Emperor Yi. It kept shrinking, wanting to strangle him to death. Emperor Ye's lips curled into a disdainful smile. He raised his right hand slightly, and the power of heaven and earth was forcefully pulled over. It turned into a hand blade that slashed towards the chain. Extreme Dao Sky Severing Hand. Boom! The hand blade pierced through the clouds like a divine weapon. It slashed the chain and shattered it. The hand blade tore through space and appeared above Qilin Shi's head. Qilin Shi roared and flew back crazily. However, the hand blade was so fast that he couldn't dodge. It directly pierced through his body, causing his soul to shatter. Emperor Ye's palms trembled. A divine zither appeared in his hands. His 10 fingers played the 9 strings. The zither music was vast and mighty, completely wiping out Qilin Shi's soul. More than 300 life tokens fell. Qilin Shi's soul didn't escape either. It was completely destroyed. Emperor Yi didn't hesitate. He took the life tokens and stepped into the distance again. Now, everyone had 10 to 100 life tablets. Some super strong cultivators had already collected hundreds or even thousands of life tablets. Renhuang Yi was a top-notch existence. He had more than 1,300 life tablets and was ranked 12th in the overall battle zone. Yi Qinghan was in the 45th battle zone. After eliminating more than 100 experts and obtaining more than 300 life tokens, he was stopped by a group of people. "Yi Qinghan, give us your life tokens and leave the boundless space. We won't make things difficult for you," a human king said in a muffled voice. Boom! He attacked crazily again. The blade light pierced through space and cut through the opponent's neck in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan took the life token as soon as it appeared. The opponent's soul gradually dissipated. Before he was eliminated, his eyes were full of shock and disbelief. Swish, 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 boom, boom, boom. Seeing Yi Qinghan's strength, the crowd didn't say anything else. They crazily attacked Yi Qinghan. Divine light and sword light interweaved, causing the ground to sink and sink. 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Art, First Style, Dragon Tail annihilating mountains and rivers. Roar. 100 zhang long golden dragon appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The huge dragon tail accompanied by a heaven-defying will shattered everyone's Dao hearts. Oh my god! What kind of damned secret art is this? The crowd roared and poured out their Zhenyuan. Dozens of people joined hands to form a huge defensive barrier, hoping to block the attack of the dragon tail. Boom! The dragon tail smashed onto the defensive barrier, suppressing everyone. The ground cracked and collapsed for dozens of meters. Dozens of experts felt as if they were being pressed down by the heavens. Their legs broke as they knelt on the ground. The aura of death was descending. Second style, Tyrant Dragon Sky-Shattering Roar. The golden dragon coiled and opened its mouth, wanting to devour the heavens. The heaven and earth spirit chi flowed in reverse, forming a huge chi flow collision. It was incomparably terrifying. Roar. A boundless emperor's aura spread out and the dragon's roar suppressed everyone's Dao hearts. Many people coughed out blood and fell to the ground. Their life tokens appeared and their souls were immediately transported out of the boundless space. Buzz, 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 everyone felt as if their souls were about to explode. They could be killed by this dragon roar at any moment. Their expressions changed drastically. Without thinking, they threw out their life tokens. The boundless space rapidly squeezed everyone out of it. The aftershock of the roar sunk the ground and rushed into the clouds. Outside the boundless space, dozens of people coughed out blood and their souls turned pale. They fainted on the spot. If they had been a step slower, they would have been killed by Yi Qinghan. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor was shocked. He was stunned by Yi Qinghan's technique. This is the dragon race's secret art, the 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique. It has been lost for more than 30,000 years. How could he have the chance to cultivate it? How could a human cultivate the dragon race's Dao technique? The Azure Dragon race suddenly stood up and stared at the 14th and 15th zones. Looking at the first 2 styles of the 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique, his dragon blood was boiling. After all, he was a quasi-emperor and the 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique was a secret art of the dragon race. He had seen it almost once and felt as if he had comprehended something. At this moment, the Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor no longer paid attention to other spaces. No matter how strong the young experts were, they could not attract his attention. He only wanted to not miss Yi Qinghan using the 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique. The 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique has 3 styles. I wonder if he has completed the 3rd style. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor was incomparably shocked. Yi Qinghan took a large number of life tablets and continued to move towards the center. He was getting closer and closer to the giant races Jiangheng and the Sage Monarch race. A true battle was about to break out. Fortunately, the battle zone was large enough that the experts had to fight and slow down. Otherwise, the battle would have already begun. Each battle zone was extremely cruel. Each zone had 3 to 5 imperial princes. However, their realms were different and their battle prowess was different. Some were destined to become stepping stones. Some were even destined to die without a corpse. In the 99 zones, Heaven's equal Monkey King was the strongest. He swept his way through with extreme speed and killed without a word. He wanted to be the first realm crosser. The first realm crosser would definitely be rewarded. As for what it was, no one knew. However, the human emperor would not be stingy when he took action. Boom! A human quasi-emperor's son was killed by Heaven's equal Monkey King. Even his soul did not escape. His death shocked many quasi-emperors. 3,000 life tablets, 5,000. Heaven's equal Monkey King's life tablets were increasing rapidly. He only targeted super experts. Those people had hundreds or even thousands of life tablets. Killing one of their quasi-emperor's sons was equivalent to killing 1,000 elites. As long as he collected more than 50,000 life tablets, no one would be able to surpass him. The path to the realm crosser would appear in front of heaven's equal Monkey King. Boom! There was another imperial prince in the 99 zone. It was an expert from the Cancer tribe. It had evolved into its true form and had long pincers that were as tough as immortal sect weapons. It was fine if it did not move, but once it moved, it would cause the heavens and earth to collapse. At this moment, it had killed more than 300 experts and obtained 5,000 life tablets. It was second only to Heaven's equal Monkey King. Heaven's equal Monkey King stared at the name on the life tablet and revealed a cold smile. He quickly rushed in a direction. As long as he killed the expert from the Cancer tribe, Heaven's equal Monkey King would complete his first mission, the Realm Crosser. He would obtain the opportunity left behind by the human emperor and establish a firm foundation for his future Tao. Yi Qinghan was reminded by the divine martial imperial code. Naturally, he knew that being the first realm crosser had a unique advantage. Moreover, the rewards were very impressive and were enough to make pseudo-emperors drool. If he was lucky, he might even be able to obtain a Tier 8 or Tier 9 divine elixir. I want to be the first realm crosser. As long as I kill the top 10 in the 45th zone, I will be able to obtain 50,000 life tablets. If I kill more than half of the cultivators in this zone, I will be the first realm crosser. Yi Qinghan was determined. He did not want to waste any more time and directly rushed to the center of the zone. Those with a strong foundation knew that being the first realm crosser had a reward that would make the imperial prince drool. None of them were willing to let go of this reward and wanted to be the first realm crosser. Everyone was boiling with murderous intent. The weak were either eliminated or had their souls destroyed. It was extremely cruel. Chapter 265. In the boundless dimension, the goshawk was hunting down its prey, staining the sky with blood. Shrill screams shook the mountains and rivers, and divine light poured out everywhere. Many of the imperial princes had comprehended the essence of laws, and some had even comprehended the embryonic form of a great Tao. Yi Qinghan had no advantage in the boundless dimension, and was even suppressed. After all, his azure dragon body and essence Tao body were both suppressed. However, he had many secret arts, and had comprehended many of the essences and laws. He had also comprehended the embryonic form of the Tao of destruction. If he truly unleashed his full power, even the imperial princes might not be able to take advantage of him. Jiang Heng tore kings apart with his bare hands and killed humans. In the end, his eyes were bloodshot, and he no longer cared about his own race. Anyone who stood in his way was an enemy. Roar! The 3-meter-tall Jiang Heng was invincible. Every step he took caused the earth to shake. Even though the bodies of the titans were suppressed, they still weren't something that others could compare with. A 5-meter-long, 2-meter-wide sword materialized by true essence appeared in his hand, and its sharp sword light tore through the void. At this moment, Jiang Heng had 8,000 life plaques, and was ranked first in the 45th battle zone. Hu Qianyan of the Sacred Tiger tribe was still fighting in his human form, and he had a domineering aura that humans did not have. After all, he was a top expert of the Sacred Tiger tribe, and could easily subdue others with his Tiger King stance. He was in the 9th level of the Immortal School, and had acquired 7,500 life plaques. He was ranked second, but the quasi-emperors in the outside world knew that he had yet to unleash his full power. Hu Mei-er of the Fox tribe was in the 7th level of the Immortal School. She was the darling of the boundless dimension, and her soul was so terrifying that anyone who came into contact with her would be bewitched and willingly give up their life plaques. Even if someone had a firm Tao heart, they would not be a match for her. When she used her seduction art, she could instantly turn people into idiots. Even if they left the boundless dimension, they would not be able to recover. She was a peerless beauty, and filled with seductive charm. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand such an impact on their Tao heart. Hu Mei had acquired 7,300 life plaques, and was ranked third in the 45th battle zone. She was a strong contender for the title of Realm Crosser. Fourth place was naturally Yi Qinghan. With 7,000 life tokens, the difference wasn't that great. They were rapidly approaching each other. In at most half a day, they would be able to reach each other. In the outside world, many quasi-emperors looked at the 45th battle zone with strange smiles. They did not expect that this battle zone would have the combat power of 4 imperial princes. Even Xia Qintian wasn't watching. Xia Qiyue from the 40th battle zone and Xia Ziluo from the 35th battle zone stared at the 45th battle zone. The corners of their eyes twitched and they asked curiously, "Who is in charge of this battle zone? Why are there so many princes? There are 2 emperors in one battle zone. Why are there 4 in this battle zone?" The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor was also puzzled. There were 2 in one war zone, and 100 war zones meant that there were 200 imperial princes and holy daughters. It was terrifying and exaggerated. They were invincible in the same realm and could kill people at the same level in an instant. Just one of them was enough to deal with, but this war zone actually had 4 of them. The giant ant race quasi-emperor's beard trembled. His thin and weak body shifted as he frowned and said, "I am in charge of this war zone." This sovereign did not expect this Yi Qinghan to be an imperial prince as well. He is actually not inferior to the giant race's invincible sovereign. This war zone is interesting. I wonder who will be able to cross over. Zhang Yinxiao's face was filled with excitement. There were 2 in the human race. Although the giant race was not a true human race, they relied on the human race to survive and represented the human race. Thinking of this, Zhang Yunxiao continued, "I bet that Yi Qinghan will be able to cross over. Imperial weapon material, dazzling dragon iron essence. It is only half a kilogram. This old man obtained it when training in the demon refining region." "What? You are willing to bet this? You are so confident that Yi Qinghan will be able to defeat the 3 experts?" The quasi-emperors were astonished. Yi Qinghan was currently the weakest one. Regardless of battle strength, realm, or current ranking, he was not considered outstanding. Was Zhang Yunxiao stupid? "I can't find all the materials for imperial weapons. Extreme imperial weapons are beyond our reach. Who knows, I might be able to win if I take it out for a bet." Zhang Yunxiao raised his eyebrows with an indifferent attitude. "This old man will bet with you. I bet that Hu Mei will be able to cross over. If I lose, my Qilin tiger race will give you 3 drops of Qilin blood essence." The Qilin tiger race's senior quasi-emperor sneered as he stared at Yi Qinghan. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he was extremely unhappy with the people from the insane sect. Everyone sucked in a breath of air. These 2 old fellows were crazy enough, actually taking out supreme treasures to gamble. 3 drops of Qilin blood essence. That was a true sacred beast's blood essence. It could instantly purify a rank 1 beast into a rank 7 or even rank 8 imperial bloodline. If a prince could obtain it, his battle prowess would definitely double. This old man thinks highly of my race's Jiangheng. His bloodline has already begun to revert to its ancestor. His battle prowess is unparalleled. Once his giant bloodline is activated, he will be able to kill experts of the divine martial realm. The giant race quasi-emperor said proudly. Actually, Hu Qianyan is not bad either. His battle prowess has not been fully activated yet, but he is ranked 2nd. Once his battle prowess is fully awakened and his true form is revealed, he will not be weaker than anyone else. The sacred tiger race quasi-emperor naturally did not want to be outdone. He felt that he had a chance to become a realm crosser. This emperor is a little curious. I think highly of Hu Mei, but my heart is always biased towards Yi Qinghan. Maybe he has evolved his dragon bloodline and can use the Azure Dragon race's secret technique. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor said indifferently. What? He has the dragon bloodline? Xia Qintian was surprised. Yi Qinghan had the origin Dao body. Many human quasi-emperors knew this, but they obviously did not know that Yi Qinghan had evolved his dragon bloodline. Yes, a very low-level dragon bloodline. If his performance in this battle is good, this emperor can consider bringing him back to the Azure Dragon race to nurture him. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor said indifferently. Everyone's expression changed. The Azure Dragon race was actually going to nurture a human. This was simply an unprecedented occurrence. The human race was not at ease sending Yi Qinghan to the Azure Dragon race. Who knew if they would trap and kill the human elite? However, this was the best opportunity for Yi Qinghan to transform. If a high-level dragon bloodline was poured into his body, he would form a true Azure Dragon body. Then, Yi Qinghan would be comparable to the Heavenly Monkey King. The experts of the myriad races were not willing to let the Azure Dragon race nurture Yi Qinghan. Rather than nurturing a human, it was better to nurture a top existence of the myriad races. The effect would definitely not lose to Yi Qinghan. Everyone was silent for a moment. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor smiled and looked at the endless space. He whispered, "It seems that the first realm crosser will be born between Long Qiong, Heavenly Monkey King, Xian Jiutian, Feng Ling, and Yang Zhan of the human race." Long Qiong was naturally the emperor of the dragon race. His dragon blood could definitely suppress the bloodline of the myriad races and be comparable to the golden bloodline. Unfortunately, Si Wuxia's realm was too low. He was only at the mid-level of the Dao Master realm. It was not bad that he could complete the realm crosser, let alone become the first realm crosser. Yang Zhan was an expert born in the Dao realm of the war race. He was a foster son adopted by the Zhan family. His understanding of battle intent had reached the peak. He had sealed himself for 3,000 years just to wait for the golden era. His spear skills had reached the great success stage and he could kill a divine martial expert with a single spear. Many dark horses appeared in the various battle zones. For example, Sikong Qingjun and the others were invincible. There was one who was the most special. He was Feng Sha. His killing intent and baleful aura caused the experts at the 9th level of the Immortal Gate to not dare to move recklessly. The elites at the 7th level of the Immortal Gate would instantly submit when they were hit by his killing intent. Those who were slightly weaker would be able to suppress the souls of their opponents. They would not be able to escape at all. Yi Qinghan and the other 3 great experts had yet to gather, but the first realm crosser had already begun to form. Monkey King Qitian and the others had begun to charge. As long as they killed more than half of the existences in a battle zone and collected 50,000 life tablets, they would automatically become the first existence to cross the battle zone. Many boundary emperors began to restrain their auras. However, the scene suddenly changed. Emperor Yi transformed into a divine Guqin. Divine light pierced through half of the battle zone. The Guqin music was grand and majestic, stirring up the qi and blood of people, causing their blood to boil. The heavenly melody even broke through the barriers of the battle zones and attracted all beings to come closer to him. The Azure Dragon Boundary Emperor's pupils contracted. He had guessed what Emperor Yi was going to do. Wang, 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 the Guqin music of heaven and earth resounded. Birds and butterflies danced, covering the sky and covering the sun. They descended outside Emperor Abyss City to listen to the divine law. Even the boundary emperors couldn't sit still. They felt their souls throbbing, wanting to stand up and fight. This is the Heaven Attacking Song, a song created by the first human emperor. He actually comprehended it. Is he going to fight everyone in the battle zone alone? He's crazy. He wants to be the first existence to cross the battle zone. The boundary emperor's eyes flickered. They watched as Monkey King Qitian, Long Qiong, and Yang Zhan unleashed all their battle prowess and rapidly closed in on the battle zone. Right now, it was a race against time. In a single breath, the first realm crosser would be determined. In the battle zone where Emperor Yi was, all the elites couldn't help but get closer to Emperor Yi. Their blood was boiling. The closer they got to him, the faster their blood flowed. They could explode and die at any time. However, they were like moths to a flame. Even if they died, they had no regrets. Emperor Yi sat cross-legged in the 9 heavens. His rainbow-colored divine robes fluttered in the wind. His expression was calm as he looked down on all living beings. His 10 fingers gently played the heaven-attacking song. Every melody could shake one's heart. One of the imperial princes in this battle zone had a pale face. His eyes were malevolent, and his legs couldn't help but want to get closer to Emperor Yi. In the 10th battle zone, Feng Ling manifested her true form. The phoenix danced in the 9 heavens, about to erupt. A mouthful of fire burned 10,000 miles. She flapped her wings and flew up, instantly killing a king. In the 6th battle zone, Xia Ziluo's 10 fingers reached into the sky, wanting to grab the firmament. The 8 trigrams formation hung in the 9 heavens, spiraling continuously, forming a huge vortex. Her expression was holy. With a move of her 10 fingers, the entire space was distorted, and the spiritual qi was instantly sucked dry. Heaven attacking technique. A low voice broke through the shackles of space and traveled to the outside world. The expressions of everyone outside Emperor Abyss City changed drastically. Qin Hangyan's Wuxian fell from their chairs with a boom. Their 5 fingers were trembling as they pointed at Xia Ziluo. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Jian Qinxue in the 1st battle zone had also gone crazy. The entire battle zone was covered in snow, freezing the souls of the heroes. Those with weaker cultivation couldn't withstand it at all. They instantly threw down their life tokens, and their souls fell into the space. The temperature in the battle zone was getting lower and lower. Those below the 7th tier of the Immortal Gate didn't have time to give up. Their souls were frozen to death on the spot, and a large number of life tokens fell. Chapter 266. The entire battle zone went crazy. Everyone unleashed their peak combat power, especially the female cultivators. Their beauty was unmatched, and their combat power was not inferior to any of the princes. Xia Ziluo had actually comprehended the heaven-quelling technique from the wordless stone tablet. This was a supreme emperor technique of unknown origin. The ancient killing god only knew of this secret technique, but no one had comprehended it. Not even the boundary emperors had comprehended it. They could not see through the stone tablet at all. The human race was in an uproar. Apart from Feng Ling, who had the phoenix bloodline, the rest of the female cultivators were all humans. 2 of them were disciples of the insane sect, but they were both in love with Yi Qinghan. Everyone was envious. The Azure Dragon Boundary Emperor's expression changed slightly. He did not expect that the last few dark horses were all human female cultivators. The 6th battle zone where Xia Ziluo was at was twisted into a fried dough twist by her. Countless souls fell into the space, and even more experts were frantically dodging. It was useless even if they had comprehended the space laws. They could only dodge but could not resist. They could only delay and hope to exhaust Xia Ziluo's strength. However, Xia Ziluo had the purple light immortal spirit body. She was not afraid of exhaustion at all. In Emperor Ye's battle zone, 70% of the experts had already approached Emperor Yi. They kept self-destructing, and their souls were severely injured. They fell out of the space. The battle zone had become a meat grinder for the elites. There was no mercy, only victory and defeat. Countless kings' Tao hearts had been shattered. Those who remained were all powerful candidates for the top 1,000 kings. The entire battle zone was alarmed. The battle zones without supreme experts all stopped fighting and stared at the void. Even Yi Qinghan stopped in his tracks. It was as if he had heard a song that commanded everyone to attack the sky. Ah! The heavenly Monkey King reverted to his true form and flew 100,000 miles away. His golden war staff expanded to 10,000 feet and swept across the heavens. A single strand of his aura could instantly kill those in the Immortal Gate realm. Anyone within 10,000 miles of him would be instantly killed. Those with slightly stronger souls could still escape, but those with weaker cultivations would perish immediately. Roar with a dragon roar, Long Qiong in the 80th battle zone turned into a 10,000 Zhonglong divine dragon and soared into the sky. One could only see the head of the dragon but not the tail of the dragon. The kings in these battle zones all had ashen faces. It was their misfortune to have appeared in the golden era with Long Qiong and the others. They had all become stepping stones for the great emperors to corroborate their Tao. The mortality rate wasn't high, and their corpses were piled up like mountains. Countless corpses collapsed outside Emperor Abyss City. Their eyes were empty, and their eyes were filled with shock and despair. The quasi-emperors of the human race and the myriad races all stood up. The first realm crosser was of utmost importance. Everyone wanted to be born in their own race. This was because the first realm crosser had at least a 50% chance of attaining the Tao. Because he had the inheritance of the human emperor. Dong dong dong, everyone's heart began to beat faster as they stared at the battle zones. First place, Long Qiong, 40,000 life tablets. Second place, Jian Qinxue, 39,000 life tablets. Third place, Xia Ziluo, 38,500 life tablets. Fourth place, Qitian Monkey King, 38,000 life tablets. Fifth place, Xian Jiutian, 37,800 life tokens. Sixth place, Yang Zhan, 37,000 life tablets. Seventh place, Feng Ling, 36,000 life tablets. Eighth place, 12th place, Emperor Yi, 35,000 life tablets. However, this ranking was moving in an instant, and the numbers were climbing rapidly. Emperor Yi wasn't ruthless enough to kill. After all, the heaven-attacking melody was too brutal. As long as she exerted her strength, she could make everyone near her explode and die. This was tens of thousands of people. If she wasn't careful, she would lose control, and tens of thousands of elites would die. They were all aiming for 50,000 life tablets. Once they passed that, they could become the first realm crosser. Si Wuxia was too young and also wanted to display his golden bloodline. Unfortunately, his realm was too low, so he could only pout and slowly fight. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth with the tip of his tongue and revealed a cold glint. He muttered, "My crazy sect already has 2 crazy people. I'll bear with it for now." These dozen people led the experts to go crazy together. Gu Qingyu and Gu Jiandao's sword was like a rainbow that could break the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers. The golden jade thunder god staff technique could shake a boundary emperor technique. Sikong Qingjun walked to the front of the human race's elites. The rookie and the others also became famous, attracting the attention of the human race's major forces. However, they didn't know that they were already part of the crazy sect. How could they compete with the crazy sect? Ha ha ha, the human race is destined to be glorious. Zhang Yunxiao saw a large number of human experts rushing out and becoming dark horses and couldn't help but be overjoyed. More importantly, Yang Zhan was the Zhan family's Tao realm cultivator and could very well become the first realm crosser. The difference wasn't big, and they could turn the tables at any time. Everyone's hearts were hanging in suspense. The experts of the Special Physiques Alliance came out one after another. Tyrant Blood Physique, Sun Moon Physique, Golden Jade Physique, Divine Physique, each of them had unparalleled battle prowess. They were all imperial princes. 7 or 8 imperial princes appeared in each battle zone. The 45th battle zone was the most tragic. A total of 12 imperial princes appeared. They usually hid their bloodlines, but once they unleashed their full power, they instantly crushed their opponents. Heaven Tyrant's lips curled up. This was the time for the special physiques to show off. The special physiques of the human race were born to prove their Tao. Which emperor didn't have a special physique and terrifying bloodline? Mad Tyrant Dragon, the direct descendant of Heaven Tyrant, had the tyrant blood physique and received Heaven Tyrant's true teachings. His physical body was large enough to tear apart the stars. The tyrant's technique was powerful enough to pierce the 9 heavens. The sun-moon physique could make the sun and moon appear at the same time, gathering the power of the sun and moon. Who could resist it? This was the true golden era. Unfortunately, these people awakened too late and missed the chance to fight for the #1 battle zone crosser. Feng Wuxia was very strange. He didn't fight for the life tablets, nor did he attack. He just walked in the endless space, comprehending the space, comprehending the laws, and comprehending the principles of space. With each step, his aura changed by 30%. He was like a god of wind, gentle and elegant. His hair flew behind him, and with each step, his clothes fluttered. The wind element wrapped around him, making him seem like the son of the wind god, able to command the wind element in the world. Muyu Tianchen was an existence with extremely bad luck. He hadn't even fought before encountering the emperor of the myriad races, the cat emperor of the heavenly cat race. They fought until the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The 2 ultimate existences were both injured, causing this battle zone to not have many casualties. It had to be said that the king level's luck was very good. In the 6th battle zone, Xia Ziluo caught up and rushed to first place. The entire battle zone was crushed by her, but there was still an imperial prince in this battle zone, Zhu. He belonged to the dragon race, and his combat strength was not inferior to Long Qiong's. He was extremely powerful and wantonly seized life tablets, making it difficult for her to reach 50,000. 48,000 life tablets, only 2,000 left. This made the hearts of the myriad races almost jump to their throats. Xia Qintian clenched his iron fists. He wanted nothing more than to rush in and pull Zhu out himself, making Xia Ziluo the first realm crosser. Hand over your life tablets and leave the endless space. Xia Ziluo's terrifying will envelop the battle zone, and she reached out to grab Zhu. Humph, your combat strength is indeed very terrifying. Unfortunately, you are destined to be my dowry. Zhu forcefully broke through the shattered void, revealing his enormous black dragon body. He shattered the distorted space, and a spatial storm covered the entire battle zone. Countless people fell into the space, but their life tablets were scattered in the air, and no one could fight over them. The 2 ultimate existences were confronting each other, and no one dared to be distracted. If they were the slightest bit careless, they could become the other's stepping stone. Looks like I'll have to kill you. Xia Ziluo's peerlessly beautiful face revealed a sense of vigor. Her battle robes formed her body, and her figure was fully revealed, but there was an additional manly temperament. The will in her eyes represented the will of the heavens. Her jade-like hands formed a seal, and an 8 trigrams diagram appeared. It continuously rotated, forming a huge reincarnation vortex. Don't embarrass yourself in front of me with this little bit of power. Once my true body appears, even if the heavens collapse and the earth rends, I won't move. Even reincarnation can't drag me away, let alone an 8 trigrams reincarnation like yours. Zhu's golden body spanned thousands of miles, and the dragon horns on the dragon head emitted a divine light, resisting the tearing force of the reincarnation vortex. Then I'll see if your physical body is stronger, or if the heavens are stronger. I can even crush the heavens, so why can't I crush your Taoist body? Do you still have the strength to use the heaven manipulation technique? The spiritual energy of the entire battle zone has been sucked dry by you, so you're destined to not be able to use a second attack. Surrender and be my dragon concubine. Our children are destined to achieve the position of the great Tao. Zhu shouted forcefully. You're just a snake, and you dare to covet me. Xia Ziluo was disdainful. There was no man in this world who could enter her eyes. You're still stronger than Yi Qinghan. Since you're competing with others, it shows that you don't have good taste. Zhu stood proudly in the air and said domineeringly, I'll become the first existence to cross regions and fight. I'll kill my way to his battle zone and kick him out of this space. I'll let you understand who the true Supreme King is. Xia Ziluo's lips curled up. Her 5 fingers tore through the void and tore apart the battle zone's barrier. She mobilized spiritual energy from other battle zones, and 2 spiritual energy dragons spanned thousands of miles. They circled around her golden body and formed a terrifying 8 trigrams diagram. Don't you know that I have the purple light immortal spirit body? Spiritual chi is nothing to me at all. Her clear voice resounded through the clouds, making the quasi-emperor's hair stand on end. Xia Qintian suddenly stood up. He was afraid that Xia Ziluo would go crazy, but he didn't expect her to really go crazy. Forcefully breaking apart the battle zone's barrier would consume her vitality. No one can stop me if I want to win. I don't choose a man based on whether he's strong or not, but on my mood. If you want to stop me from winning, then be prepared to die. Xia Ziluo was too domineering, to the point of no return. Zhu's expression changed greatly. In this endless space, his physical body couldn't descend, so he was at a disadvantage. If he used his soul to resist the heaven manipulation technique, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. I call myself equal to the heavens, destined to be equal to the heavens. I am destined to prove my Tao, and no one can stop me. The heavens equal Monkey King transformed into a golden body. His battle staff tore apart the void and destroyed countless souls. His life tablets automatically flew into his sea of consciousness. The number of life tablets increased rapidly, rushing to more than 48,000. Moreover, it increased by a few hundred with every breath of time. No one in this battle zone could contend against him, not even the Emperor's sons. They all fled far away. They didn't want to be the first to cross over, but they didn't want to be eliminated. Long Qiong was also angry. The dragon race had always been supreme, so how could they allow others to surpass them? With a dragon's roar, it shook the mountains and rivers. Its aura surged for thousands of miles, and it quickly regained the number of life tablets. Emperor Yi sighed slightly. His fingertips trembled slightly, and his 10 fingers pulled 9 strings. He mobilized all the strength in his body and fiercely smashed the zither. Whing! Boom! A hurried melody pierced through the Milky Way and rushed out in all directions. The entire space was suppressed, and the spatial barrier shook, emitting divine light. Chapter 267. Hiss. Hiss, the sound of space shattering stunned countless people. At this moment, everyone felt like their hearts had stopped beating as they stared at the image of the boundless space. At this moment, Emperor Yi was not the only one who erupted. Almost everyone erupted as well. The top 20 people all erupted with startling attacks. Victory or defeat was decided in one move in each of the 20 regions, splitting the world. A pair of jade-like hands grabbed Zhu's 30,000-meter-tall golden body and twisted it continuously, nearly shattering it. Zhu let out a startling roar and tossed out his life medallion. Before he died, he fled the boundless space. He looked at Xia Ziluo in horror, his Tao heart nearly shattering from fright. Regardless of whether Xia Ziluo became the first person to cross regions or not, her life medallion instantly soared to the peak. The entire region became her captive. With 100,000 life medallions, she ranked first in the entire region. Did Emperor Yi become the first person to cross regions? Some false emperors muttered, not seeing clearly. It should be him. He erupted one breath earlier than the others. The person beside him replied with uncertainty, sweating profusely. It's Emperor Yi. He became the first person to cross regions. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor's eyes flickered. He was somewhat shocked that the peak martial Saint Emperor Yi became the first person to cross regions. However, the Zither immortal Scarlet Fiend physique was an innate sovereign. There was nothing she could not do. The human race was in an uproar. The quasi-emperors raised their heads and roared, so excited that their blood boiled. No one in the region knew who the first person to cross regions was. After putting away the life medallions, everyone waiting for the boundless space's recognition. All the experts stopped breathing and clenched their fists tightly as they stared at the void. The world fell deathly silent. After 3 breaths, the boundless space gave off a bright light. A divine curtain appeared, covering the mountains and rivers. Everyone could see it clearly. The first person to cross regions, Jian Qinxue. A few large words hung in the void. They gave off a resplendent golden light and sparkled with a divine light. Ha! The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor frowned. Could the will of the human sovereign be wrong? It was clearly Emperor Yi who erupted first. Why did Jian Qinxue become the first person to cross regions? Is the boundless space broken? How many tens of thousands of years has it been? That seems to be explainable. The many quasi-emperors showed strange expressions, their mouths twitching. This is impossible. How can this emperor lose to a little girl who is still wet behind the ears? Long Qiong roared angrily. She produced a human body, and then a fist blasted apart the void. Yang Zhan's lips twitched. He flicked his finger and his spear whistled through the air. The first person to cross over was actually a female cultivator. Moreover, it was a little girl that he had never heard of before. Emperor Yi was stunned. He didn't expect that he would still be a step too late even after using his strongest combat power. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly. The first person to cross over was still the Kuang sect. However, he was still surprised that it was Jian Qinxue. He had thought that it would be Emperor Yi. The people in the boundless space all thought that they were too slow. As for the quasi-emperors outside, they all suspected that there was a problem with the boundless space. Jian Qinxue did not explode in the end, so why did he suddenly become the first? Everyone, wait. There must be a problem with this endless space. The first person to cross over is very important. This involves the inheritance of the human emperor and cannot be casually changed, the Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor said in a deep voice. Sui Xian was immediately unhappy. This was the boundless space's own choice. If it chose Jian Qinxue, it must mean that Jian Qinxue's life jade number had reached 50,000 first. Brother Azure Dragon, the boundless space chose the expert whose life jade number reached 50,000 first, not who explodes first. In the end, we can't tell who reached 50,000 first. However, the boundless space has its own calculation method. There is no mistake. Of course, Sui Xian had to speak up for Jian Qinxue. As long as Jian Qinxue was the first person to cross over and obtained the inheritance of the 2 human emperors, he would be half a step away from the great emperor's throne. That was the glory of the ancient massacre god. That's right. Since we have chosen to train in the boundless space, we naturally have to follow the rules of the boundless space. Qin Heng said in a deep voice. The experts of the 10,000 races were unwilling to accept this. That was the inheritance of the 2 human emperors. Up until now, no one had obtained it. Now that the boundless space had only opened once, a little girl from the human race had obtained it. I am the will left behind by the 9 dragons emperor. I protect the boundless space. The boundless space will not make a mistake. Jian Qinxue is indeed the first person to cross over. She will obtain the inheritance of the 9 dragons emperor and human emperor Shenyuan. There is no need for you to argue. A deep voice came from the boundless space. It was vast and mighty, shocking the forbidden area. The will of the human emperor emitted a terrifying dragon aura. Even the azure dragon quasi-emperor knelt down. The will of the human emperor was immortal even if it had been passed down for millions of years. The first person to cross over and the 100-battle king will enter the space of the human emperor's inheritance together to inherit his legacy. You still have one more chance. What is the 100-battle king? Everyone was puzzled. They did not know that there was such a rule in the boundless space. The 100-battle king is an invincible existence across 100 battle zones. The 9 Dragons Emperor explained in a deep voice and then returned to silence. Long Qiong and the others' eyes flashed. Since the first person to cross over had been decided, they could only fight for the title of 100-battle king. However, the title of 100-battle king was not so easy to fight for. It meant that they would have to fight countless elites to the death. Moreover, their combat strength would be suppressed by the gravity divine chains. After crossing over 50 battle zones, if they encountered the emperor of the original battle zone, they would have a slim chance of survival. Humph, no one can stop me from becoming the emperor. Long Qiong snorted. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Qilin tiger's face was gloomy. He did not expect Jian Qinxue to be so terrifying. However, he was not afraid. Once Jian Qinxue crossed over to battle, her combat strength would definitely decrease. When she encountered him, it was unknown who would win. Jian Qinxue's expression was normal. The first person to cross over did not make her excited or crazy. Instead, she calmly stepped on the snow dragon and flew towards the barrier of the second battle zone. Once she touched the second battle zone, the barrier shone brightly and sucked her in. Boom! Jian Qinxue felt like she was hit hard. Her soul was suppressed. Her legs sank and a 10-meter-long iron chain appeared on her ankle. It was filled with runes of the Great Tao. Lightning pierced through the void and seized one's soul. The iron chain was as heavy as 10,000 pounds and directly suppressed her soul. Humph! Jian Qinxue's face turned pale. She felt that it was difficult to even walk, let alone fight. Fortunately, this was the border of the battle zone. It was desolate and uninhabited, giving Jian Qinxue time to get used to it. With the birth of the first person to cross over, everyone finally relaxed. Xia Ziluo was not satisfied. He clenched his fists and broke through the barrier, entering the 7th battle zone as well. With the gravity divine iron chain on his body, every step he took shattered the ground, making it difficult for him to move. The many quasi-emperors stared at the people who crossed over. When they saw that their combat strength decreased significantly, they knew that crossing over to battle would be a long process. Hence, they did not pay too much attention to it. They all stared at the 45th battle zone. This battle zone had the most emperors and a quasi-emperor's daughter. They had never heard of this name before, Jin Yen. When one was beautiful to the extreme, one would be a demon. She was as beautiful as a demon. There were a total of 12 emperors and princesses. This was the battle zone with the most emperors and princesses, so many that it made one's hair stand on end. Aside from the emperors and princesses who could fight, the others all withdrew. Of the 12, only 5 were from the human race, while the 10,000 races had 7. Yi Qinghan, Jin Yan, Wu Tiangong, and Jiang Heng from the giant race had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. It was almost 2 against 1. The 10,000 races have always been united. How about we join forces to kill the human race's emperors first? Hu Qianyin glanced at the 7 emperors and found that they were all top existences among the 10,000 races. They could fight against the top kings of the immortal sects and escape from the hands of divine martial experts. Okay. Don't let the goodies flow into the fields of others. Let's kill the human race first. The rest will depend on our strength. Hu Mei-er smiled, her phoenix eyes blurred. She looked at Yi Qinghan with a smile and said coquettishly, what a handsome and masculine man. Are you willing to become my follower? The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. I guarantee that you will be overjoyed. Shameless. Trash like you is only worthy of bewitching the emperors of the 10,000 races. How can the human race's emperors be trampled by you? Jin Yen berated indifferently, afraid that Yi Qinghan would be tempted and betray them. Hu Mei glanced coldly at Jin Yen. A murderous intent flashed in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Yi Qinghan smiled and looked indifferently at the human race's side. 5 against 7. They were not ordinary people, but 7 real emperors. On the other hand, the human race only had 3 emperors and 1 quasi-emperor. The difference was thousands of miles. The 4 human race's emperors did not say much. They stood back to back and chose to join forces. There was no other choice unless they admitted defeat. Outside the boundless space, the 10,000 races laughed evilly. 7 against 3. Even the human race's few zone crossers would be eliminated, not to mention Yi Qinghan and the others. The quasi-emperor of the Qilin tiger race raised his head and laughed. He looked mockingly at Xia Qintian and said proudly, "It seems that the materials for your emperor weapon will belong to me." Xia Qintian's face was solemn and his eyes flashed. He looked at the 45th battle zone. Yi Qinghan had lost all hope. A great martial venerable, a quasi-emperor, and the king of the giant race, Tian Gongwu of the divine martial family of the heavenly palace and the god of the heavenly palace. On the other hand, the 10,000 races had the 9-tailed heavenly fox bloodline of the fox race and the sovereign of the tiger race, Hu Qianyan. Any one of them was as strong as Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan indeed has no chance. His luck is too bad. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor shook his head slightly and felt that it was a pity. Sigh, that's right. He is only a great martial venerable, but he can be compared to a prince of the immortal sect. If he had broken into the immortal sect, he might have had a chance. Now, Hu Qianyan and the other 2 princes can instantly kill any prince of the human race. Many quasi-emperors of the 10,000 races pretended to feel pity, but they were gloating. The expressions of Qin Heng, Sui Xian, and the others changed slightly. They glared angrily at the quasi-emperors of the 10,000 races and scolded, "So what if he has lost? Yi Qinghan is the disciple of the ancient massacre god. He has fought on the battlefield and has no regrets even if he dies. He did not lose to those of the same level, but to those of the same level. If he had broken into the immortal sect earlier, would the 10,000 races still be here? I won't argue with you. Facts speak louder than words. The ancient massacre god is not afraid of death. I would like to see if Yi Qinghan is afraid of death. Will he fight to the end or throw away his armor and choose to surrender?" The Qilin tiger quasi-emperor mocked coldly. The human race immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation and glared at the other party. In the 45th battle zone, Yi Qinghan held the 7-foot berserk hammer, with both hands. His aura continued to rise and his soul spirit rapidly soared. In an instant, he broke through from the great martial venerable realm to the beginner stage of the immortal sect. He opened his eyes, which were like the eyes of a dragon, and directly broke through the imprisonment of the endless space. His aura was so strong that Jin Yen and Wu Tiangong kept retreating. Chapter 268. Roar. The quasi-emperors of the human race were overjoyed, their blood boiling. They clenched their fists and the corners of their lips curled up as they looked at the quasi-emperor Qilin. "Ha ha ha, this little guy actually hid his strength." Qin Heng laughed loudly. The heroes of Emperor Abyss City were stirred up as they roared furiously in unison. "Fuck, this Quan Zone is fucking awesome. How many utmost beings of the same level? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Emperor Yi, Jian Qinxue, Mu Yu, Tianchen, Xikong Qingjun, Stan Wuxia, and Feng Wuxia were all wearing their windbreakers. However, they did not unleash their full power. The rookie, the fraud, and the other 4 experts were almost invincible. Li Jiuzhong was steady and had a strong willpower. He was not greedy for achievements and did not take risks. Therefore, his life jade ranking was still within the top 3,000. Although Shi Ji's battle prowess couldn't be considered extraordinary, without the support of the golden brick, he had been lucky enough to trigger a reward from the essence of metal, which resulted in a golden brick that increased his battle prowess by more than tenfold, giving him the battle prowess of a crown prince. Now, Yi Qinghan had unleashed his full combat strength and displayed the first tier of the immortal gate. His dragon eyes contained divine light and the embryonic form of the great Tao of destruction appeared. It affected the origin of all things in the endless space and defeated the 7 quasi-emperors with just his aura alone. The faces of the Qilin tiger and the other boundary emperors changed. Yi Qinghan was able to fight against boundary emperors of the immortal gate realm when he was only a greater martial honorable. Now that he was in the immortal gate realm, even if he was only in the first stage of the immortal gate realm, his battle prowess would increase tenfold. Yi Qinghan held violent hammer in his hand and took a step forward. His aura soared to the sky and his battle intent was overwhelming. Jiang Heng and the others' expressions changed drastically. Yi Qinghan's battle prowess was beyond their imagination. His battle intent was enough to make the crown prince's face pale and lose his will to fight. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to have reincarnated. He was clearly standing there, but when one closed their eyes, one's consciousness could not detect him at all. It was as if he was standing in another space-time. Are you going to hand over your life tablets to me, or do you want me to do it myself? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. It seemed to be a simple sentence, but it contained a supreme will that could not be refuted. Even a prince like Hu Qianyan felt the pressure double. Yi Qinghan, aren't you a bit too arrogant? Even if your soul has the advantage, with the 7 of us working together, heaven's equal Monkey King wouldn't dare to be this strong. Hu Qianyan coldly said. Fellow Taoist Yi, don't be so overbearing. I don't want to be your enemy. Why don't we join forces? As long as we gather 50,000 life cards, we can fight across the 45 battle zones. Hu Mei's aura changed. She became enchanting and charming. Her aura instantly became tyrannical. The strength of her soul instantly surpassed that of Yi Qinghan. The Fox clan and the 9-tailed heavenly fox relied on their souls to survive. The Fox clan's physical bodies were weak, but once they took human form, they would all be top-grade female cultivators. If they didn't have life-saving methods, they would have long been reduced to slaves and wiped out by the long river of history. The endless space was the world of the Fox clan. If they were to erupt, no one would be able to stop them. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and stared at Hu Mei. He wanted to break through the clouds again. He had never thought that there would be such an existence in this battle zone. Don't refuse, or I'll join forces with them to destroy you first. But I'm a bit reluctant. Hu Mei twisted her body and smiled shyly. Fellow Taoist Yi, you're a human. You won't choose to work with the Fox clan, will you? Tian Gongwu asked in a deep voice. Jin Yan and Jiang Heng also stared at Yi Qinghan's back, waiting for his decision. Hu Mei. What do you want? The Cyan Wolf clan's crown prince shouted coldly. Of course I want to, cross the battle zones. Hu Mei tilted her body and pointed her finger at the Cyan Wolf clan's crown prince. Suddenly, a green vine appeared on her fingertip and wrapped around the Cyan Wolf clan's crown prince. The Griffin race's crown prince was furious. He didn't expect the Fox clan's crown prince to turn against him so easily. Just as he was about to attack, Yi Qinghan's figure suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. Asterisk crack, asterisk with a crisp sound, Yi Qinghan broke the crown prince's neck and took away all the life tokens in the Griffin prince's crown prince's spiritual sea. Hu Qianyan was furious and gathered the other crown princes. Even Jiang Heng and the others wanted to work together to deal with Yi Qinghan and Hu Mei'er. Hu Mei'er giggled. After killing the Cyan Wolf clan's crown prince and taking his life tokens, the number of life tokens instantly reached 30,000. She was ranked first in the battle zone. Yi Qinghan had 25,000 life tokens and was ranked second. However, the remaining 7 crown princes, 4 human race experts and 4 10,000 race experts, wanted to get close to Yi Qinghan and Hu Mei'er to guard against them. Outside the space, Xia Qintian frowned. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan and Hu Mei'er to work together. This way, Hu Mei'er would be the first to cross the battle zone since she had the most life tokens. This meant that he had lost the Emperor weapon materials to Quasi-Emperor Qinghan. Haha, brother Xia, give me the Emperor weapon materials. You won't have a chance. Quasi-Emperor Qinghan laughed. In the space. Brother Qinghan is indeed a dragon among men. You're a smart man. Hu Mei'er pretended to be shy and moaned, which made the man's bones tingle. You think you're smart? Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly changed as he swept his blade at Hu Mei'er. His speed was extremely fast, and his blade cut through the clouds and the river. Whoosh! Boom! His attack was unstoppable. Yi Qinghan attacked Hu Mei'er aggressively, which made everyone's jaws drop. Jiang Heng and the others' eyes lit up. As long as Yi Qinghan got rid of Hu Mei'er, the human race would have one more person to cross the battle zone. Hu Mei'er was furious. She didn't expect Yi Qinghan to turn hostile so quickly. Her palms constantly formed seals, and her entire body emitted a seductive aura. A green vine turned into tens of thousands of roots and swept toward the heavy berserk blade. Its vitality was boundless and incomparably tough. Even a divine martial Dao weapon might not be able to destroy it. Break! The heavy berserk blade was attached with a destructive aura, which strangled the vitality of the green vine. The green vine turned into fragments that danced in the sky, and the blade light approached Hu Mei'er's body. Damn bastard! You've angered me. I was kind enough to cooperate with you, but you want to go against me. Hu Mei'er roared. Her 10 fingers turned into sharp claws that tore through the void. Her figure flashed and disappeared into the void. Wu Tiangong and the others were overjoyed. Now that the human race had one more quasi-emperor princess, it would be easy to counterattack the 10,000 races. Kill! Boom! The space in the 45 battle zones collapsed. A total of 9 imperial princes and 1 quasi-emperor princess fought crazily, stirring up the wind and clouds, causing space to fluctuate and the earth to rise and fall. The 7-foot heavy berserk blade was incomparably overbearing. It swept through the army. Yi Qinghan attacked Hu Mei'er until she was forced to retreat continuously. Hu Mei'er's explosive power was not on the same level as Yi Qinghan's, so she could only dodge. However, the space within 100 miles was completely sealed by Yi Qinghan. Every place she wanted to appear was locked down by Yi Qinghan in advance. Heavy Berserk God Slaying Technique. Heavy Berserk God Seizing Technique. Boom boom boom, slash after slash, Yi Qinghan did not know fatigue. Hu Mei'er's waist was cut open by the blade qi, and her soul was severely injured. Damn Yi Qinghan! I'll fight it out with you. Hu Mei'er was infuriated. The sky was filled with green vines that intertwined with each other. They were indestructible. They wrapped around Yi Qinghan and kept shrinking, trying to suppress him. A huge green ball appeared in everyone's sight. Hu Mei'er stood in the air and kept waving. She ordered her natal divine weapon, the Jade Demon Vine, to attack Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stood in the center and sneered. He clenched his fist and his aura rose. With a stomp, the mountains and rivers within 10,000 miles shook. Heavy berserk heaven punishing style. One with the blade. Boom. With a loud sound, the blade chi broke through the clouds. The Emperor battle spirit broke through the shackles and a heaven-punishing battle blade rushed out of the shackles. It tore through Humayer's encirclement and entered the void. It then dived down to the ground and slashed through the void. Whoosh! The green vines exploded and were turned into dust by the blade chi. Pft! Humayer spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Her face was pale as she looked at Yi Qinghan. She couldn't care less anymore. She turned around and ran, disappearing without a trace. Yi Qinghan frowned. It was obvious that he couldn't give chase at this time. Otherwise, when Jiangheng and the others took away more than 50,000 life tablets, he would have to wait for the people who crossed over to gather enough life tablets. Boom! Hu Qianyan and the other experts were pale as they were forced to retreat. Now that Yi Qinghan had returned, they had no chance at all. After killing a prince with one slash, Yi Qinghan took away a large number of life tablets and coldly looked at the experts. "Give me your life tablet." Yi Qinghan's voice was emotionless as he coldly said. Hu Qianyan and the other two were surrounded by the experts of the human race. They couldn't escape, not to mention that although the 45 battle zones were vast, there was a limit. They couldn't escape from Yi Qinghan's palm. Humayer is an idiot. Hu Qianyan was furious. He threw out his life tablet and gave up on struggling. Yi Qinghan coldly smiled and took the life tablets. The total number was more than 40,000. He only needed 10,000 more to cross over. Then, he stared at the remaining two princes. "You still want to struggle? Humph, Yi Qinghan, you can win in the endless space, but it doesn't mean that you are strong. Wait until you get out of the endless space, you will understand." Puchi, Yi Qinghan slashed his saber and directly split his soul. The life tablet fell to the ground. Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to take it. He coldly watched the other party's soul dissipate and said disdainfully, "You talk too much nonsense. You can boast after you win." With 50,000 life tablets and an extra 3,000, Yi Qinghan glanced at Jiangheng and the others. He didn't go overboard. He directly threw out the life tablets and turned to leave. Outside the space, Xia Qintian laughed so hard that tears were about to fall. He laughed exaggeratedly and crazily. He didn't lose the Emperor weapon materials. Instead, he won 3 drops of Qilin blood essence. It was a great harvest. "Daoist Qilin Hu, please give me the Qilin blood. So many Daoist friends are watching." Xia Qintian laughed. "Ka ka ka," Quasi-Emperor Qilin Hu's veins bulged. His blood rushed and his face turned red. He wished he could enter the space and kill Humayer. Her arrogance had ruined the good situation. "Humph. Take it. I can still afford to lose." With so many quasi-emperors staring at him, Quasi-Emperor Qilin Hu could not go back on his word. He directly took out a golden bottle and tossed it to Xia Qintian. "Men, pass on my decree. Demote all the direct descendants of Humayer's race to the status of a concubine. They will never be conferred the title of king." Qilin Hu's embarrassment turned into anger. He roared angrily, implicating Humayer's race. "Who do you think you are? My 9-tailed fox race hasn't spoken yet. What does it have to do with you?" A white-haired old man burst out with his aura, releasing a vast emperor's might. He stared coldly at Quasi-Emperor Qilin Hu and said disdainfully, "My 9-tailed fox race is also a royal race. We have produced emperors before. Watch your words. Even if Humayer made a mistake, I should be the one to punish her." Chapter 269. At the boundary stone of the 45th battle zone, Yi Qinghan stood proudly like a pine tree. He held violent sword and took a deep breath before stepping through the barrier. His figure flashed and appeared in the 46th battle zone. His legs were suddenly locked by the gravity god chains, which weighed thousands of pounds. Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He once again withdrew his cultivation to the middle stage of Great Martial Honorable. He stepped forward and the chains rubbed against the ground, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Dao runes dug into the ground, and lightning drilled into Yi Qinghan's soul to refine it. It was easy to recognize zone crossers. The longer the gravity god chains on their ankles, the more zones they had crossed. Now, the chains were only 10 meters long, which meant that they were zone crossers. A zone crosser's combat power was suppressed at the beginning. They had enough life tokens and were the favorite targets of the original battle zone's experts. As long as they killed a zone crosser, they would become famous. Not only would they get their life tokens, but they would also be fancied by many big forces. Look! There's a zone crosser over there. He came from the 45th battle zone. Brothers, kill him and we'll split the life tokens. This is the first time I've seen a zone crosser. Let's go and meet him. Whoosh, 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 more than 10 experts joined forces to fight. There were humans and 10,000 races. They were extremely powerful and were not inferior to a prince. Yi Qinghan had just appeared and ran in front of the other party. Yi Qinghan's expression was cold. He glanced at the experts in front of him and smiled confidently. Violent cold light shot out and lightning tore through the void. The endless space environment that had remained unchanged for thousands of years was now covered with dark clouds. Thunder roared and countless laws descended, surrounding Yi Qinghan. It's Yi Qinghan, the human expert who declared war on the Qilin. I didn't expect him to be a zone crosser from the 45th battle zone. The expert from the giant ant race revealed his true form. He was 10 feet tall and his fangs could crush immortal sect Dao soldiers. 14 immortal sects, but I don't know how many life tokens you have. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. Although 1/10 of his soul's power was restrained by the chains, he would not allow these clowns to blaspheme him. Kill! Boom, 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 more than 10 experts from the immortal sects, the king of a race, and the war king of a region, attacked at the same time. They instantly drowned the area where Yi Qinghan was standing. Yi Qinghan wanted to leave, but the divine iron chains had bound him. He could only resist. Violent 9 styles. Boom, 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 Yi Qinghan brandished his saber in a circle. Saber chi covered a radius of dozens of miles. It was extremely sharp and forceful as it blocked the opponent's attack. The Heavenly Dipper energy shield collided with Yi Qinghan's attack, and a sharp sound pierced everyone's eardrums. The experts from the Celestial sect couldn't withstand it and quickly retreated. Yi Qinghan dragged the iron chain forward, and when it collided with the ground, it emitted a terrifying sound. It was as if the black and white impermanents were dragging the iron chain to reap lives. Destruction. Yi Qinghan raised his saber and used the Great Tao of Destruction. Even though it was just an embryonic form of the Great Tao, it was still terrifying. The Great Tao was merciless. Any cultivator who came into contact with the aura of destruction would be suppressed on the spot, unable to resist the murderous intent of the Great Tao of Destruction. Whoosh! The destruction aura gathered on the immortal sect of Yi Qinghan. The destruction aura gathered on the immortal sect of Yi Qinghan. Not good, everyone was shocked. Some threw out their life tokens and chose to leave the space. Some were too late and were injured by the immortal sect of Yi Qinghan. The destruction aura suppressed their souls and killed them on the spot. Ah! Yi Qinghan! I was wrong. Please spare my life. An expert roared. The destruction aura spread from the wound on his arm. His life force was quickly dissipating. Even if he wanted to throw out his life token, the rules of the space would not be able to save him. Ah! My giant ant race will not let you off. The giant ant's steel-like soul could not withstand the immortal sect of Yi Qinghan. It was pierced by the immortal sect of Yi Qinghan. The destruction aura enveloped it. In the blink of an eye, the giant ant disappeared and died on the spot. Yi Qinghan's will was firm. If he wanted to be crowned emperor, he had to step over corpses. If he killed one more now, he could save 100 or even 10,000 people in the future. His cold eyes shot out a heaven-defying will. I want to prove my Tao. Who dares to stop me? Swish. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took away 20,000 life tokens. The total number of life tokens was over 70,000. He was ranked first in the 46th battle zone and was ranked 130th overall. Soon, he would be able to enter the top 100. Now, most of the life tokens were in the hands of a few people. Xia Ziluo alone had taken almost 140,000 life tokens. Soon, she would be able to cross battle zones and become the fastest person to cross battle zones in a row. No one knew what the reward for being the fastest person to cross battle zones in a row was, but it was impossible that there would be no reward. Luck was the most important factor in proving one's Tao. Without luck, no one would be able to prove their Tao. Many people triggered the fortunes in the space and obtained a large number of treasures and secret technique inheritances. Shi Ji's fortune was the strongest. He obtained a strand of metal origin. Unfortunately, it was not enough for him to forge his origin Tao body. Otherwise, his future would be limitless. It would be just a matter of time before he surpassed the Thearcha's son. Congratulations on triggering one of the top 10 missions in the space. There is a supreme treasure in the 46th battle zone. It is the material of a monarch weapon, the dragon scale gold. It is hidden in the endless mountain range. If you can complete it, you will be rewarded by the human sovereign. A majestic voice exploded in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. He was so shocked that his body trembled. As expected, this space is not as simple as it seems. There are triggered missions, and it is the material of a monarch weapon, the dragon scale gold. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. The dragon scale gold was the scale armor of a 9th-grade divine dragon during the Desolate Era. After years of weathering, it was formed by the accumulation of iron elements into a supreme treasure that could be forged into a monarch weapon. Monarch weapon materials were very rare. Many boundary emperors spent their entire lives and could only find one or two materials. There were even more boundary emperors who could not find even one in their entire lives. Even great emperors had to spend a lot of effort to forge their own extreme Tao monarch weapon. Yi Qinghan's palms were sweating. There were a total of 12 monarch weapon materials. If he could obtain the dragon scale gold, he might be able to gather all 12 materials in his lifetime and forge an extreme Tao monarch weapon. No longer fighting, Yi Qinghan began to walk along the mountain range. The iron chains collided with the mountain rocks, creating flames. At this moment, the 46th battle zone, which was originally an illusory material, had all turned solid, making it even harder to find missions. What was even more surprising was that Yi Qinghan had just triggered a mission, and the image in the outside world had already disappeared. The boundary emperors could not track his whereabouts. What is going on? Where is Yi Qinghan? The Azure Dragon Boundary Emperor who had been staring at Yi Qinghan suddenly realized that something was wrong. The image only fluctuated slightly, and Yi Qinghan's figure disappeared. There is also a problem with the image. Xia Qintian was shocked. Yi Qinghan could not have disappeared for no reason. Although there were many princes in the 46th battle zone, none of them were near Yi Qinghan. There were not many people near him, and no one could silently kill him under the eyes of a boundary emperor. The dragon scale gold was extremely important. The human sovereign's mission could not be revealed to outsiders. The rules of the boundless space automatically blocked Yi Qinghan, and the outside world could not find him. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's brows were tightly knitted. He swept his gaze across the endless mountain range. There were green mountains, clear waters, and waterfalls. It was almost impossible to find a piece of hidden dragon scale gold in this endless mountain range. If he relied on luck, how heaven-defying would his luck be? However, he had already triggered one of the top 10 missions. Yi Qinghan could not give up. Sometimes, even great emperors could not obtain monarch weapon materials. It would be foolish to give up. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Boom, 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 the iron chains shattered the mountain rocks. Yi Qinghan concentrated his divine sense and quickly walked through the mountain range. He sensed his surroundings, not wanting to miss any clues. The dragon scale gold should be able to stimulate my dragon blood. My dragon blood will definitely have a reaction if I come into close contact with it. This might be my biggest guarantee for finding the dragon scale gold. Opportunity and strength, neither can be missing. This is the prerequisite for proving one's Tao. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed and he clenched his fists. Triggering the mission was luck and opportunity. He had dragon blood, which was strength. He had to obtain the dragon scale gold. So what if he missed the king of 100 battles this time? Yi Qinghan's footsteps became faster and faster. His divine sense was used to sense the surrounding laws. His eyes shone brightly as he swept his gaze across the mountains. His soul was strangely clear and became stronger. The barrier of Peak Great Marshal Venerable shattered in the astral wind. With a slight push, he officially stepped into the Peak Great Marshal Venerable realm. As long as he tempered himself for a while, he would no longer need to suppress his cultivation. Yi Qinghan did not want to miss any opportunity to become invincible. As long as he could take another step forward, he would not want to break through. Traveling 10,000 miles was better than cultivating for a year. Especially in this endless space, it contained the essence of the two great martial venerables. Each mountain and each rock had its own laws and rules. Yi Qinghan discovered the benefits of comprehending the endless space. Wuxia stepped on the wind, his clothes were as white as snow. He smiled faintly and looked at the space. His aura was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. He blended into the space. Everyone else was crazily fighting, only he was walking peacefully. Whoever dared to block his path would be turned into ashes with a flick of his finger. Shi Gu relied on the origin of gold to create golden bricks. Those who were hit by his bricks would feel a heavy blow to their soul. They would not be able to escape. If they did not hand over their life jade, they would die. The human race, the 10,000 races, as long as they were opponents, he would be merciless. The determination to prove one's Tao was slowly growing. Yi Mingxi's soul was extraordinarily strong. She had the advantage in this endless space. Although her speed was not the best in history, she could at least kill anyone below the Imperial Prince level. In the 52nd battle zone, she met Lin Aoqiong. Lin Aoqiong's body was like a divine sword, indifferent as he looked at the little girl. "Hey, brother Aoqiong, you won't attack me, right?" Yi Mingxi waved her little hand and asked with a flattering smile. "I won't." Lin Aoqiong's mouth twitched. Why would he fight with this little girl? If he really kicked her out, how could he face the people of Kuang's sect in the future? "Let's work together, brother Aoqiong." Yi Mingxi grinned. She was now a 14 or 15-year-old girl. She was peerless, but she gave people the feeling that she had not grown up yet. Lin Aoqiong could not help but feel pity for her. Lin Aoqiong frowned. If he wanted to bring her along, he would have to kill everyone in the battle zone. "Can you please? I only have 20,000 life jade, but I want to go." Yi Mingxi begged in a low voice. Chapter 270. Apart from the first battle zone and the sixth battle zone, all of the 100 battle zones were in a mess. Those who crossed over were greatly suppressed and surrounded by experts. A few unlucky ones ran into emperor-level existences as soon as they appeared. The battle caused the heavens and earth to shatter and the mountains and rivers to fall back. In the end, both sides suffered great losses and became the work of others. Seeing such a scene, the quasi-emperors couldn't help but feel pity. They couldn't blame others for their lack of luck. The most powerful ones were still the previous top 12, Qitian Monkey King, Long Qiong, Yang Zhan, and Xia Ziluo. Even if they were suppressed, they were still invincible. Xia Ziluo, in particular, used the heaven-quelling technique to destroy an entire zone. She became the meat grinder of the battlefield, killing people until their guts were torn apart. Jian Qinxue walked among the mountains and rivers. Snow drifted for thousands of miles, freezing people's souls. No matter how powerful the soul was, it couldn't withstand the torture of being frozen. This kind of freezing could kill the soul. It made it impossible for people to escape from the space. Wherever she passed, people would give up the moment the coldness descended and choose to flee. Xia Ziluo was indeed the fastest to cross the second zone. She was at the 7th layer of the Immortal Gate, not inferior to Long Qiong and the others at all. The heaven-quelling technique was too terrifying. No one knew what kind of reward she would receive for crossing the boundary again. Xia Ziluo's face was pale as she fell from the sky. Her battle strength had dropped too much, and she couldn't even fly. Boom! Xia Ziluo fell to the ground. The earth bobbed up and down. She had the rare supreme power. Jian Qinxue probably couldn't resist much in front of her. She could fight with Long Qiong and the others. Yang Zhan held a golden spear and stood proudly in the sky like a javelin. His battle-intent sword, far surpassing the other emperors. After all, he was an existence that had been sealed for 10,000 years. He had an ancient aura that could steal people's souls. Xian Jiutian was a descendant of the Black Tortoise bloodline. His soul was extremely powerful, and his defense was unparalleled. Even the Black Tortoise shell and divine martial Dao soldiers couldn't break it. This kind of existence was too different. Even ordinary emperors couldn't break his defense. At this moment, he was fighting steadily. He wasn't as strong as the others. After crossing the boundary, the gravity chains had almost no effect on him. It was the same for Qitian Monkey King and Long Qiong. The divine chains had almost no effect on existences like them. They would only be affected after crossing several regions. Emperor Yi dragged the iron chains and hugged the divine zither as he walked on the main road indifferently. He was not in a hurry to kill but chose to comprehend. However, no one dared to take the initiative to provoke this frail young girl. She looked like she would be blown away by the wind. Her hair was messy as if she was a wandering child who did not know her way home. Xia Qiue wasn't as strong as Xia Ziluo, but wherever her ice sword passed, no enemy stood proudly. They either retreated or died. Her vigorous body was like a sharp sword that could reach the sky. As soon as she stepped out, she fought in all directions. She was incomparably powerful. Heavenly Palace God and Dugu Bai had coincidentally been assigned to the same space. The two of them worked together, and the entire battle zone was leveled. The two of them fought across different zones at the same time. Gu Qingyu crossed over and found Lin Wutian. Master and disciple, the solitary sword Dao was unstoppable. Every sword strike was fatal. Even the imperial princes had to retreat. The power of the insane sect was fully displayed in the boundless space. They were comparable to a dozen imperial princes. No sect was as strong as them. In fact, the people of the insane sect were far more terrifying. In the God of Death's world, everyone was cultivating like a madman. The spiritual energy here was rich, and the techniques were complete. Large quantities of pills and precious medicines were provided. The God-slaying eagle was intoxicated, desperately absorbing the secret techniques here. 2 months later, the God-slaying eagle transformed into a couple. Their eyes were sharp. One was vigorous and the other was fiery. Their battle strength was at the top of the celestial gate. If they were lucky enough, it would not be difficult for them to reach the divine martial realm. Di Longtian's speed of growth was very fast. Not being able to participate in the boundless space this time was a great blow to him. The reason he couldn't participate was that his cultivation level was too low and he was too young. Yi Qinghan did not dare to take the risk of sending him into the boundless space. The wordless stone steel and 9 heavens tyrant dragon art steel had already disappeared. Yi Qinghan and Xia Ziluo had successfully cultivated them. Unless they set up a new steel one day, the 2 secret techniques would disappear. Di Longtian had painstakingly cultivated 5 secret arts in the past 2 months. His physical body was growing at an extremely fast speed. He was only 6 years old, but he was like a 10-year-old child. The divine dragon mark on his physical body was about to soar into the sky, constantly tempering his physical body. Nangong Qingyue found a stone steel with the sun moon yin yang art carved on it. Before she could see the runes carved on it, she thought it was a divine technique and directly sat down. However, she did not know it was a dual cultivation secret technique. She sat down in front of the stone steel. Her divine sense entered the stone steel and was directly pulled into it. She saw a man and a woman cultivating the grand Tao of Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang intertwined, and the grand Tao of Yin and Yang burst forth. Boundless vitality attacked Nangong Qingyue's sea of consciousness. Heavens, I'm in trouble. Nangong Qingyue's breathing stopped and her eyes were tightly closed. However, the phantoms in the sky directly appeared in her sea of consciousness. Their bodies were almost empty, and the paths of Yin and Yang energy could be clearly seen. Yin and Yang alternated, causing Nangong Qingyue's Yin energy to become restless. However, there was no Yang energy, causing the Yin energy to become chaotic. It tore apart Nangong Qingyue's vitality, causing a large amount of it to collapse. Muyo Tianchen had just successfully crossed over and encountered Nangong Xiaobei. Before he could be pleasantly surprised, his brows sank. He had placed a drop of blood essence on Nangong Qingyue. When Nangong Qingyue was heavily injured or lost her vitality, he would sense it. What's going on? Isn't she killing in the god world? How can this be? Muyo Tianchen clenched his fists and muttered to himself. Brother Tianchen, what's wrong? Nangong Xiaobei frowned. It's nothing. Go train first. I've even given you my life tablet. Properly grasp this opportunity. I'm leaving. Muyo Tianchen gave up on training without hesitation. Brother Tianchen, you have the battle strength of an emperor. Why are you giving up? Did something happen to Yeye? Nangong Xiaobei hurriedly asked. No, don't think too much. What can happen to her in the god world? Go train first and raise your cultivation as soon as possible. Muyo Tianchen threw his life tablet to Nangong Xiaobei. His soul gradually faded out of the boundless space and returned to his body, shocking all the quasi-emperors. Muyo Tianchen, you're messing around. Training in the boundless space is a great opportunity. You have the battle strength of an emperor, so why don't you contribute to the glory of the human race and give up instead? Qin Heng coldly reprimanded. Muyo Tianchen's body shook and he took control of it. He didn't even answer and directly charged at the ancient god of killing. His speed was extremely fast, far surpassing that of ordinary emperors. Outside the god world, Muyo Tianchen's attack wasn't strong, but it still alarmed the god-slaying eagle inside. It quickly woke Di Longtian up and had Muyo Tianchen enter the god world. As soon as Muyo Tianchen entered the god of death realm, he quickly found Nangong Qingyue's image. When he saw the words carved on the stone tablet, he angrily called her an idiot. He then sat cross-legged on the ground and his divine sense was dragged in as well. Once Muyo Tianchen entered the steel, he saw Nangong Qingyue's blood essence explode and Yin Qi attack her sea of consciousness. It was as if she had gone crazy. Then, he looked at the Yin-Yang Emperor above and immediately understood. Muyo Tianchen had no other choice. Apart from dual cultivation, he could only die here. The secret art in the god world could really kill people. If Muyo Tianqian didn't come back, Nangong Qingyue would definitely die. But this time, his return was the beginning of a transformation for him and Nangong Qingyue. The Sun-Moon Yin-Yang art was created by a husband and wife in the primordial era. Two Yin-Yang emperors appeared in the family, and their battle strength was unparalleled. They had once killed their way to the back of the Forbidden Mountain and retreated unscathed. They had lived for 30,000 years. That era was the most glorious era of the human race. Myriad races and forbidden lands didn't dare to offend the human race. The Yin-Yang emperors were revered by the human race. The only regret was that although the Sun-Moon Yin-Yang art seemed powerful, it cut off the ability of the two emperors to have children. Otherwise, if they were born with the Yin-Yang body, they might be able to break the legend and achieve eternity. No one knew what would happen after they came out of seclusion, but they could predict that a second pair of Yin-Yang emperors would appear in this era. All the experts in the endless space would become their dowry. Why did Martial Uncle Tianqian suddenly come back? Huang Xiaohu woke up and asked curiously. Di Longtian shrugged. He didn't understand the situation and said, I don't know. He should have been kicked out, so he came back to cultivate. The group of little fellows nodded as if they had understood something, and gathered together to discuss spiritedly. Taiwa sighed and shuttled back and forth in front of the stone tablet. Without a sea of qi, he couldn't cultivate even if he wanted to. At this moment, he really wanted to be like the others and cultivate with all his might. He wanted to become stronger and help his master protect the crazy sect. Little Taiwa, what are you thinking about? Di Longtian looked at Taiwa shaking his head and scratching his head and couldn't help but ask. I want to cultivate, but I can't open my sea of qi. Taiwa said with grievance. The people who knew Taiwa immediately gave up. Their thoughts were that Taiwa's dantian was made of stone and iron. There was no chance at all. Taiwa, in the future, with your brothers here, don't think about cultivating. We can take care of you. Di Longtian smiled. He finally found a child who was younger than him. He was so cute that he wanted to take care of other children. However, he didn't know how old Taiwa was. It was just that he couldn't grow up. Taiwa curled his lips and was extremely unwilling. He didn't know how terrifying he was. Once he recovered his memories, he would probably be able to instantly kill a 9th-stage quasi-emperor. Boom! Yin and Yang gathered in the sky above the godly killing world. The great Tao rumbled, shaking the entire universe. The 8 trigrams of Yin and Yang hung in the sky, shocking the quasi-emperors. What's going on? Why is the Tao of Yin and Yang so dense? Someone comprehended the Tao of Yin and Yang. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor stared at the ancient killing god. Then, he looked at Qin Heng and Wuxia and asked in shock, Your ancient killing god still has an emperor's son that hasn't awakened? Qin Heng was even more shocked. He shook his head and said in a low voice, I don't know. The ancient killing god's inheritance is too long. There are many forbidden grounds that even quasi-emperors can't enter. Perhaps only Dao friend Di Shang knows about the ancient killing god's foundation. However, he, Sai, Swaxian also shook his head. No one knew about the ancient killing god's foundation. No one thought that it was Mu Yu Tianqian. After all, he had just entered the ancient killing god and clearly didn't comprehend the embryonic form of the Tao of Yin and Yang. If he could comprehend it so quickly, it would be too terrifying. Yi Qinghan also didn't think that Mu Yu Tianqian and Nangong Qingyue would have such an opportunity. They actually comprehended the Sun-Moon Yin-Yang technique and practiced dual cultivation. The only regret was that if one cultivated the Sun-Moon Yin-Yang technique, they might never have a descendant. Chapter 271. In the vast and boundless mountain range, Yi Qinghan walked alone. There was no sense of time or age. His body was covered in dust and his hair was silver white. It was as if countless years had passed. The outside world had already collapsed, but none of this had anything to do with him. He had completely disappeared from everyone's sight. The laws were attached to his physical body, and the origin was affected by the origin of water. Yi Qinghan's soul had never been so quiet before. It was even clearer than listening to Emperor Ye's zither music. He could sense all the profundities and origin of the endless space. With the origin of the great Tao and laws gathered, how terrifying were the 9 dragons emperor and the human emperor. A great emperor could only comprehend one great Tao in his entire life, but the human emperor could comprehend all of it. However, he could not comprehend longevity and eternity. How vast was the universe! Yi Qinghan sighed in amazement, but he also secretly steeled his Tao heart. Sooner or later, he would be able to break through the shackles of this world and attain eternity. My path of Tao verification is decided by me. Even if it is bumpy, I will press forward. What I couldn't do in my previous life, I will do everything I can in this life to complete it. After searching for more than 2 months, he still could not find the dragon scale gold. If it were anyone else, they would have given up long ago. However, Yi Qinghan did not give up. Instead, he became even more determined. I've already searched more than half of the 46th battle zone. Only a small portion is left. Perhaps it is in this small portion of the mountain range. Yi Qinghan looked up at the endless mountain range in front of him. Large trees towered into the sky. They were majestic and majestic, making people feel reverence. Boom! The chain was swung and smashed apart a large tree. Yi Qinghan rushed into the mountain range. There was another prince cultivating in seclusion in this mountain range. It was the Azure Flood Dragon Prince. He had the bloodline of the Azure Dragon. His aura was cold, and his eyes were dazzling. Perhaps the dragon scale gold had attracted the dragon blood in his body, allowing him to reside here. His cultivation was rising day by day, and he was not even willing to cross regions. He stayed here and cultivated bitterly. His combat strength had increased by several times, making him incomparably powerful. The moment Yi Qinghan stepped into the mountain range, he alarmed him. Sha sha sha, the blue flood dragon prince returned to his main body. His 1,000-foot golden body was covered in scales and exuded an aura of death. His eyes pierced through the void and stared at Yi Qinghan from afar. He stared at the iron chain around Yi Qinghan's ankle and spat out a fiery red tongue. There's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on barging in. Little human, your dragon blood is even richer than mine. If I devour your flesh and blood, I might be able to ascend to the 8th stage. The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince was a quasi-8th rank divine beast. He had broken through the shackles of the Grey Flood Dragon clan and became a supreme existence. The clan practically treated him as a treasure, and countless resources were spent on him. They only hoped that he could cross over to the 8th rank and lead the Grey Flood Dragon clan to glory. Dong dong dong, Yi Qinghan's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. His qi and blood started to become restless, and his dragon blood boiled. He couldn't help but squint his eyes and look at the mountain range. The eternal forest covered the stars and the moon, exuding an aura of vicissitudes. Danger spread out, but there was also a calling of duty, which made him want to walk into the depths uncontrollably. The dragon-scaled gold is here, but it seems to be dangerous. It seems like there is an emperor's disciple-level expert cultivating in seclusion here. Yi Qinghan was indifferent. He summoned the heavy frenzy saber and stepped into the depths resolutely. The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince was like a mountain range. Its giant head leaned on the mountain peak, and if one didn't observe from a close distance, they wouldn't be able to sense its existence. It was waiting for Yi Qinghan to enter its attack range. As long as Yi Qinghan was within 1,000 meters, no matter how fast Yi Qinghan was, he wouldn't be able to escape from its attack. The mountain range's aura suddenly changed. It was incomparably gloomy, and violent winds blew. The dragon-scaled gold seemed to be summoned and exuded a rich golden light and dragon's might, which alarmed the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince and Yi Qinghan. There is a substantial treasure here. Didn't you say there was no opportunity? The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince was overjoyed. He wanted to move his body, but he was afraid of alerting Yi Qinghan. Thus, he remained in his original position. Yi Qinghan hastened his steps. The gravity divine chains were as light as a feather and were lifted up by him. The heavy frenzy saber tore through the void, wanting to destroy this space. The ancient tree crumbled, and when Yi Qinghan stepped into the sky, the tree returned to its original state as if it didn't receive any attack. Boom! Ing! The saber chi tore through the mountain rocks and streaked across the Grey Flood Dragon's body, emitting an ear-piercing rumble. The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince instantly roared and rushed into the void like a divine sword. He opened his bloody mouth, and his fangs pierced through the void. He rushed towards Yi Qinghan, wanting to devour him. Hua hua hua, the void constantly crumbled, and in an instant, the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince's 1,000-meter golden body surrounded Yi Qinghan. His body coiled and twisted, wanting to strangle Yi Qinghan to death. Heavy frenzy attack, heaven punishing break all arts. Ing! Yi Qinghan moved like a bolt of lightning. The 7-foot heavy frenzy was unstoppable. It tore through mountains and rivers and crashed into the scales. The friction produced towering flames, but it actually didn't break through the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince's physical defenses. Yi Qinghan immediately frowned. Although the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince blocked Yi Qinghan's attack, the heavy frenzy saber light was cold and sharp. It directly penetrated through the scales and into the depths of his soul, almost torturing him to death. The heart-wrenching pain caused the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince to rapidly twist his body. Yi Qinghan's space to move was getting smaller and smaller, and the space in the sky was getting smaller and smaller. As long as it was sealed, Yi Qinghan would have no way to escape. Swish, Yi Qinghan soared into the sky, wanting to kill his way out of the encirclement. Ing! Roar! How could the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince allow Yi Qinghan to escape from his encirclement? The giant head swooped down, wanting to seal the sky. His mouth was filled with the smell of blood and poison. Just a whiff of this smell would cause one to faint. Yi Qinghan's metal origin Dao body erupted. The metal origin enveloped the body that was formed from his soul. It sparkled with golden light and didn't allow the filthy poison to approach. Yi Qinghan's body turned into a saber and rushed towards a corner that hadn't been completely sealed. Kacha! The heavy frenzy saber slashed across a piece of raised scale, directly tearing off the dragon scale. Flesh and blood splattered. Roar! The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince felt the pain. He raised his head and roared. The space was shattered as his body distorted and crashed together. However, Yi Qinghan took advantage of this critical moment to rush out of the encirclement. Using stellar transposition, and just as he was about to leave, he was blocked by a piece of scale and the gravity god chain. The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince was overflowing with anger. He swung fiercely and sent Yi Qinghan flying hundreds of miles away. He crashed into a tall mountain, causing the mountain rocks to crack. Die for me! The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince swung his tail at Yi Qinghan, causing the void to shatter. 1,000 feet long golden body soared into the 9 heavens, alarming the boundary emperors outside the space. Who is fighting the Grey Flood Dragon? Why can't I see him? Everyone was shocked. They only saw the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince crazily swinging his tail at the void, causing the mountain range to collapse and all laws to submit. However, they couldn't see his opponent. Could it be Yi Qinghan? He disappeared the moment he entered the 46th battle zone. How could he avoid the images of the endless space? Whoosh, Yi Qinghan soared into the sky. His battle saber soared into the void as he formed seals with his palms. His dragon's might was vast and mighty, suppressing the heavens as his figure gradually appeared. 9 heavens tyrant dragon art, 9 revolutions heavenly dragon style. Yi Qinghan directly erupted with his strongest battle prowess, transforming into a 10,000 feet long golden dragon. He spiraled in the void and uprooted the endless mountain range. A fist-sized piece of dragon-scale gold appeared in the reincarnation whirlpool. The light didn't break through the shackles, and outsiders didn't notice it. It was directly captured by Yi Qinghan. The Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince's 1,000 feet long golden body was enveloped by the 10,000 feet long giant dragon. His 5 claws tore the earth apart, but he couldn't stop the dragon's tearing. Roar! The Grey Flood Dragon roared and wanted to break free from Yi Qinghan's restraint. However, the dragon's might was vast and mighty, suppressing his qi and blood. He no longer had the strength to resist and was instantly pulled into the reincarnation whirlpool. Once he entered the reincarnation whirlpool, Yi Qinghan's dragon head swooped down from the depths of the void. He sucked in with his big mouth, absorbing all the spiritual qi and gathering a terrifying power. He directly reached into the top of the whirlpool. With a furious roar, the qi waves collided, shattering thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. The scales that wrapped around the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince's soul were shattered, and his flesh was badly mangled. Roar! The mournful roar was accompanied by the aura of death that filled the 46th battle zone. The Quasi-Emperor Prince was so frightened that his legs went soft. He looked at the sky in horror and saw a sky dragon and a Grey Flood Dragon soaring in the sky. His face was deathly pale. The sky dragon was too powerful and too terrifying. It directly suppressed the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor Prince. With a furious roar, the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor was blasted into pieces. Blood stained the ground, and even the mountain range was dyed red. Ugh, a region's king had never seen such a terrifying scene. A prince's soul actually couldn't even break free and was blasted to death. Outside the space, the Quasi-Emperor's hair stood on end. Especially the Grey Dragon Quasi-Emperor, he almost jumped out of his chair. The complete 9 heavens tyrant dragon art. He really succeeded in cultivating it. The Grey Dragon Quasi-Emperor took a deep breath, and his expression changed drastically. Too domineering. Fighting across regions and actually suppressing a race's prince. The other party didn't even have the strength to resist. Is Yi Qinghan trying to prove his Tao? The first prince has fallen. Even if the other princes lost, they could still escape with their lives, but the Grey Flood Dragon actually died. The myriad races and the human race looked at the 46th battle zone in horror. Across time and space, they felt their hearts palpitating. It was as if the giant dragon that Yi Qinghan had transformed into could tear through time and space and descend into the endless universe at any time. A large number of life tablets scattered. They could not be destroyed and were directly swept away by Yi Qinghan, disappearing from everyone's sight. The first human emperor mission has been completed. The second human emperor mission is about to begin. Divine light poured down from the sky, sliding down from the 9 heavens, informing the world that the first human emperor mission had been completed. The second mission was about to be born. Who triggered it was completely a matter of luck. It might be a prince or a king of a region. As long as one had enough opportunities and obtained the human emperor's inheritance, they would no longer be limited to being the first to cross regions or becoming the king of 100 battles. Who completed the first human emperor mission? Long Qiong and the other powerful princes frowned and clenched their iron fists. Killing intent flashed in their eyes. In a golden era, at most 3 to 5 great emperors could appear. The current era was not the ancient era. At that time, there could be 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. In addition to the experts of the myriad races, there were at least 10 great emperors. But now, it was already the limit for one great emperor to appear in an era. The great Tao was changing, and the suppression was becoming stronger and stronger. It was already impossible for living beings to defy the heavens. Everyone was fighting for this spot. The hunter would shoot the bird that stood out. Whoever was strong would be surrounded and killed by many princes. Yi Qinghan was enduring, unwilling to reveal his true combat strength. If he had not encountered the Grey Flood Dragon Prince, he would not have used the Nine Heavens Tyrant Dragon art. Now that he had obtained the Dragon Scale Gold, he entered the mountain range and waited for the human emperor's reward. Chapter 272. The mountain was majestic and divine light poured down. It was refracted by the waterfall and reflected into the endless universe. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. The quasi-emperors squinted and stared at the 46th battle zone. They were deep in thought. Yi Qinghan was in the 46th battle zone. He had just completed the human emperor mission when a strange phenomenon occurred there. 9 dragons coiled at the top of the sky. A divine phoenix spread its wings and flew high. A virtual rainbow sword pierced through the Milky Way and descended into the world. Everyone gasped. The Xianyuan sword had disappeared for many years. Now that it was in the endless space, it was as if it had descended into the endless universe and suppressed everyone. Yi Qinghan bathed in divine light. His body was numb. Dragon blood roared and boiled. His soul stirred his body. His body in the endless universe emitted golden light and was about to recover. The guardian sword emitted divine power and stood in his sea of consciousness to protect the golden body. Gugugu, Yi Qinghan's body emitted dragon power. The dragon blood was getting richer and purer. It was getting more and more advanced. The reward for becoming an emperor must be terrifying. Yi Qinghan's soul was bathed in divine light. His soul was nourished and strengthened. The divine light contained the profound meaning of laws, origin, and even the patterns of the Great Path. They were clearly visible. Young man, I don't know who you are, what your race is, or what your talent is. However, you have the opportunity to trigger the mission. You are qualified to receive the reward. A vicissitude and majestic voice exploded in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. The will of the human emperor had been passed down since ancient times. Congratulations on completing the first human emperor mission. The reward is not only dragon scale gold but also a drop of blood essence of an 8th grade dragon and a 7th grade fire source. There is also an additional mission. If you become the 10 battle kings, you will receive the fire origin secret technique. Boom! 2 jade boxes shot out from the internal space of the Xianyuan sword. The outside was covered by runes of the Great Path. No one could see what was inside. Yi Qinghan was delighted. He reached out and grabbed the 2 boxes. However, he didn't open them. He looked at the Xianyuan sword quietly and waited for its next instructions. The blood essence of the dragon can be used to create the dragon bloodline. However, the process is very dangerous. It needs to be combined with a 7th grade pill after leaving the endless space. The specific steps are as follows. The first step is to release all the blood in the main body and use the wood origin to maintain the last bit of life force. The wood origin is indispensable. The second step is to swallow the rank 7 blood-forming sacred pill. The third step is to swallow the rank 8 azure dragon blood essence and begin to form blood. If you don't have the origin of wood and a 7th grade hematopoietic sacred pill, do not modify your bloodline. Otherwise, you will die a miserable death. Junior, remember this. The will within the Xianyuan sword did not have any emotional fluctuations. It was just a will of inheritance that told its descendants about the use of the reward. A 7th grade fire source is a type of 6 tastes true fire, second only to an 8th grade sacred flame. It can instantly incinerate an immortal sex Dao weapon into dust. Even a divine martial Dao weapon would crumble under the roasting of a 7th grade fire source. As for the best use of a 7th grade fire source, it can be used to create the acquired fire elemental origin Tao body. 10,000 flames will be born in the heart, and it can burn all things. There is nothing it cannot destroy. Yi Qinghan's palms were sweating. These two supreme treasures weren't of a very high level, but they were exactly what he needed. He already had the wood and metal essences. If he could fuse them with the fire essences, water essences, and earth essences, he would be able to form the 5 elemental Tao body. After all, the water essences weren't the same as the water essences. The 5 element Tao body, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They all countered each other. If he could fuse them into one and form the Tao body, his mortal body would be equal to an undying body. When combined with the Azure Dragon bloodline, even a golden bloodline like Stan Wuxia would not be able to suppress him. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He bowed and said, "Thank you, Senior Human Sovereign, for bestowing me with this technique. As for the dragon-scaled gold, you must not leak it out. Otherwise, you will be hunted down by powerhouses. I will take my leave now." The Xianyuan sword rose into the skies and vanished into the endless space. Yi Qinghan held the 2 brocade boxes. He knew that one contained the Azure Dragon blood essence and the other contained the 7th grade fire source. He was very excited. If it weren't for the fact that he was still training, he would have returned to the ancient slaughter god realm and fused with these 2 supreme treasures first. 10 War Kings, the origin of fire secret technique. The reward given by the human sovereign must not be lower than the 7th grade. With the 7th grade origin of fire secret technique and the 7th grade fire source, it can definitely burn any immortal sect emperor level existence below the 5th grade. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and resolutely stepped into the center of the 46th battle zone. He began to kill powerhouses and fight for the life cards. Yi Qinghan was already famous in the 46th battle zone. No one dared to fight against him. When they found out that Yi Qinghan had left the mountain range, they immediately scattered and fled into the distance. However, a portion of people rushed into the mountain range from another path. They would rather not train than meet Yi Qinghan. The 46th battle zone was unusually quiet. Even the princes were hiding. No one wanted to fight against Yi Qinghan's 9 heavens tyrant dragon art. Even the Azure Flood Dragon Prince was suppressed. No one else had a chance. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth. He looked at the number of life cards he had. There were only 70,000 of them. If he wanted to go to the 47th battle zone, he would need at least 30,000 life cards. Do you think you can just hide? Yi Qinghan grinned proudly. He spread out his divine sense and tried to find a way out. Unfortunately, the chains on Yi Qinghan's ankles were too loud. Even when he was still 1,000 miles away, his opponents already knew about it. Those who could survive until now in this endless space must be the elites among the elites. Each of them had thousands or even tens of thousands of life cards in their hands. There were only a dozen people left in the 46th battle zone. It was obviously not easy to find these people in the 46th battle zone. Boom boom boom, Yi Qinghan was not in a hurry. There were only 10 war kings. There were only 10 battle zones. He had plenty of time. With some time, he would be able to find 2 or 3 elites to complete the 50,000 life cards in this battle zone and meet the requirement to cross over. Lin Aoqiong and Yi Mengxi moved quickly in the battle zone. Their speed was unparalleled in the past and present. They killed along the way. Even the crown princes were taken out by the 2 of them. The life cards were divided equally between the 2 of them. They had about 40,000 life cards each. As long as they killed the last few people, they could join forces to cross over. Now, many battle zones had learned their lesson. Most people gathered at the battle zone's stone tablet, waiting for the crosser to appear. 7 or 8 crown princes who crossed over did not even have time to appear. They were beaten up violently. 3 of them died tragically. Only half of them managed to escape. The boundary emperors frowned. They did not expect that the racial discrimination was gone. However, the true elites were almost wiped out like this. However, in this kind of situation, even if the elites joined forces, some were unlucky. For example, they met Xia Ziluo, Qitian Monkey King, Yang Zhan, Xian Jiutian, and Long Qiong. Some battle zones were almost wiped out. Outside Emperor Abyss City, tens of thousands of corpses were lying on the ground. There were transfigured elites of the myriad races and human elites. The boundary emperors felt their hearts ache. These were the elites of the elites. It was really a pity that their souls were directly destroyed. Long Qiong, Yang Zhan, and the others were too powerful. They were even more powerful than Yi Qinghan. If there was someone who could prove their Tao in this era, it would definitely be from these few people. Xia Ziluo became the first 10 battle kings. Jian Qinxue froze 6 battle zones. Yang Zhan crippled 6 battle zones. Long Qiong crippled 7 battle zones. Xian Jiutian crippled 5 battle zones. There were also a few elites who crossed over continuously. Half of the battle zones were wiped out. The top 10 were basically decided. However, if they wanted to be crowned king, they would have to continue to open up new battlefields. This was because these dozen or so people were too terrifying. They completely swept through, causing most of the elites who were qualified to be crowned king to be eliminated. All of this had nothing to do with Yi Qinghan. He only wanted to find the elites of the 46th battle zone. On this day, he stepped onto a mountain range. The iron chain shattered the mountain range. His divine sense enveloped the green mountains and clear waters. A trace of light flashed in his eyes. His large hand turned into a large hand that covered the sky and grabbed toward the depths. Boom! An afterimage appeared in the center of the mountain range. Wings covering the sky flapped as it fled into the distance. It looked like a phoenix bloodline. However, its figure was too different from a phoenix's. Its bloodline also looked like a peacock's. Its wings gave off a fiery red light, dyeing half the sky red. Roar! A peak bird-type sovereign was as fast as lightning, tearing through the void. This was a quasi-emperor scion with several king-grade bloodlines. Even if he could not defeat a martial emperor, no one could stop him if he wanted to flee. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He finally found one after much difficulty. How could he let him escape? Boom! Stomping on the ground, Yi Qinghan used the spatial laws and disappeared into the void. The distance of 500 kilometers seemed very short. Yi Qinghan appeared in front of the other party. Then, he raised his saber and hacked at the flying beast. Boom! The flying beast seemed to have rammed into Yi Qinghan's saber. The saber light flashed and cut through its wings. Yi Qinghan raised his large foot and stomped on the back of the bird. The iron chain locked its neck and stomped it to the bottom of the mountain range. Trees collapsed and blood splashed in the void. The flying beast roared. Without caring about anything else, it threw out its life tablet. Its soul gradually dissipated. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. In the end, he did not choose to start a massacre. He had obtained 10,000 life tablets. There were less than 10,000 left. At least one more super elite would be eliminated. Yi Qinghan's eyes grew colder. He used the spatial laws to the extreme. He could sense any spatial fluctuations within 500 kilometers. His speed was extremely fast. He changed his position and rushed into the distance. The space to hide was getting smaller and smaller. There were only 12 elite martial artists left in the 46th battle zone. The 3 princes' faces were ugly. They kept approaching the 40th battle zone's stone tablet. If this goes on, we will be killed sooner or later. Let's fight together. Yi Qinghan is now a peak great martial venerable. We are Immortal Realm Stage 3 to Stage 5. It should be easy to kill Yi Qing Han. The Mantis King clenched his iron claws. He looked coldly at the martial artists beside him and said in a deep voice. This Yi Qing Han is too strong. If he uses the move that killed the Grey Flood Dragon Emperor, we will all die. This boundless space is to ensure that we emperors and quasi-emperors do not die. Only then will we be at ease. If we face such an existence, I'm afraid you 3 emperors' sons won't have the confidence to survive. Some of the emperors were not willing to fight together. However, they were not willing to give up either. Their faces showed that they were struggling. Humph, he's just a great martial venerable. How much power can he unleash? Once is enough. He definitely won't have the chance to unleash it a second time. Moreover, it's obvious that he has completed the human emperor's mission. The human emperor's reward is probably an opportunity that we can't obtain in our lifetime. If you don't dare to fight, then leave the 46th battle zone. We are willing to fight. However, we don't want others to take advantage of us. The Mantis King shouted. The 3 emperors' sons looked coldly at the emperors. They decided to deal with external threats first. They would focus on dealing with Yi Qing Han. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.